Talk Shoes. Recorded live.
Welcome to Mr. Podcast with Claude
and Justin.
Today we're talking about Inception. Maybe you've heard of it. The little-known indie feature that's playing at art house theaters in one or two places across the country. Anyway, Christopher Nolan's new big blockbuster. I don't think it needs much of an introduction more than that. People have heard of it by now and have probably seen it. So we're going to talk about it and sort of get a general take on it and maybe get into some questions or discrepancies if there are any.
I'll just throw out spoiler alert. We really could just throw out some.
We will be talking about all the major scenes. So if you haven't seen the movie, you probably don't want to listen to this.
Yeah, because I think if you're really going to talk about the movie seriously, you really can't not spoil it. Yeah. So that's just go see it first. If you're interested, you know who you are. Check it out.
I would say if you like action movies, if you like movies about dreams or movies about reality, stuff like that. I think it's overall a just very well done movie. So if you just want to see a solid movie, you're like, everything I watch sucks. You want to see something that's just sort of a good movie, I think it'd be worth your time, even if you're not explicitly interested or intrinsically interested in the subject matter. The actors are good too. So if you like any of the actors, they do a great job.
Yes.
So I really love the film. It speaks to me in a lot of personal things that I like about movies and like about the subject matter. I was a fairly big fan of Christopher Nolan before this movie. I'm a bigger fan now after having seen it. And as a writer, studying the movie it has been pretty interesting because it's a well-written, well-put-together movie, and then translating that into a film is another sort of bit of genius too. So, it's sort of a general rating. I'd give it 9 out of 10.
Okay. I basically agree with what you just said. Although my rating would be a little lower just because, for me there's certain elements that I don't know if it's writing or acting. I don't know at what level, it's not working, but I think the characters aren't that strong. There's only a couple characters that really make an impact, and even those I think just aren't that strong, and it's really the premise and the world, the ideas in the movie that are the most interesting and probably the best part of the movie for me. So I think on that alone, it gets a pretty high rating. It's more interesting than most movies you see. So, in terms of giving you something to think about, it really holds up to thinking about the ramifications of what you see, and that's a good quality. I think it's just there's a certain there's just a certain disconnection from the whole thing, and it felt a bit cold to me, and so I didn't really get into it as much as I might have liked to for it to bump up to a 9 or something. But I give it about a 7.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, I'll ditto you and say I sort of agree with pretty much what you said, and I would throw this out there. I won't say this is necessarily true, but I would contend that a movie with a big premise and a huge concept is going to have a less focus on the characters, and having especially an ensemble cast be totally well-rounded, sort of equally or three-dimensional. And if I can just say, probably definitely your favorite film, Pulp Fiction. Not a very big premise film, but then you have all of these characters who are definitely interesting and great, and there's a lot there. So I think there is a balance and a trade-off. That doesn't sort of excuse anything, but I think that should be noted that I can't think of a big premise movie that satisfies the premise and then has characters who are 100% like, you know, what you'd want from them. Because I will say a lot of the characters in Inception, the sort of secondary tier characters, I like them. I think they do a good job. Their function is interesting, you know, but you don't get to know a lot about them. They're just there sort of mainly to do the job. I think that's really just, you know, that's a result of this basically being a heist film.
Yeah.
You know, that is the tool that Nolan has used to tell this story. He could have used other tools. You know, he could have used other story elements to make that work. He chose a heist film. How many heist films do you get to really know the characters very deeply? I can't say a lot of them.
Not that many. That many.
So I think that's, you know, and I've heard him talk about heist films and how, you know, it's one of the few genres where exposition is part of the entertainment, you know, and where the characters are really just sort of there to serve that function of, I'm the safecracker, and I'm the lookout guy, or I'm the getaway driver, and I'm really good at this because you might find out the getaway driver is a former race car driver or something, or he's got X, Y, Z skills or something, but, you know, you're not going to get too detailed because the point of the movie is the heist and not the characters. So, I think that's worth saying, but I think that explains why, you know, why it's like that. But I can see if you want a lot more from the characters, you're not going to get too much. Other than, I think, you know, Leo DiCaprio's character Cobb, and then his wife's character, I think is it Marie Cotard? Colliard? I forgot her name. Something French. Cotillard. There it is. The two things I said.
Yeah.
And, you know, she plays Maul. And so, those are supposed to be the two characters I think you're supposed to invest in more than anybody else. And because it's sort of at the heart of the movie, it's a love story. It's a love story that spins into a heist, really. If you think about the movie chronologically, it's the beginning of the story is Cobb and Maul sort of, you know, having their fun in the dream sharing world, and then going deeper and deeper until they get too deep to come back out, and then sort of, you know, he basically puts this, incepts this idea into her mind that she needs to kill herself in order the first part of that inception is that, you know, the world she's in is not reality. She's actually dreaming. And the second part of that is the only way to get out of the dream is to kill yourself. And then, of course, that spirals, as the movie shows, that that idea stays with her when she wakes up in the real world, and then she, of course, doesn't think she's in the real world and kills herself. And so that creates the reason that Cobb is sort of on the run in the first place, and puts him in the situation to even begin a heist. So, and then, of course, the end of the movie is him trying to reconcile the guilt and his feelings for her, and then and all that. So the beginning and ending story points is really sort of the love story, you know, and the heist film is sort of on top of that. Yes.
Yeah, I think that's where the center of gravity of your investment in the movie is supposed to be. It's. I think you're in there with Leo and you're watching the heist, but the heist becomes the occasion for him to deal with his own problems.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so that I think that's what has probably the most weight of anything in the movie.
Yeah. That's definitely number one.
Number two is probably Cillian Murphy's bit about his dad. I think that you know, that it's not extremely fleshed out, but it definitely gets a significant amount of development.
And thank you for saying Cillian, because I always say Cillian, and then I think I saw an interview or somebody talk about him, and they said Cillian. I'm like, oh, you British people, jeez,
I know.
we can't get it right over here in America, can we?
I had the same experience. I said Cillian, and I heard a number of people say Cillian, and I thought they were wrong, and I looked it up on Wikipedia, and according to Wikipedia, you're supposed to say it with a hard K, so.
Yeah, because in America we just spell it with a K and be done with it.
Yeah.
But, or maybe we wouldn't, I don't know. We like our crazy stuff too. So.
It's true. I think, it really does look like Cillian, but I don't know.
I say at least it's not an S, and we're supposed to pronounce it like a K. I think as long as it's not that crazy.
Exactly. Yeah. I don't think anyone would want to do that.
Yeah, I think Cillian Murphy's he's number 2 on the emotional story level, and
it's interesting because he's the bank that gets robbed, but like the bank, it's like if somehow the bank getting robbed was good for the bank.
It's almost like, I guess, in like Inside Man or another traditional heist film, a bank robbery film, it'd be more like the bank owner or manager somehow benefiting from the bank getting robbed.
I guess maybe that's better.
He's been doing this job for a while or something, and he's not, because his dad owned that bank, and then he realizes after the bank gets robbed that he needs to go do his own thing. You know, he shouldn't just keep running that bank. He should split the bank up or something. Yeah. I guess that's the mirror image of that.
Yeah, exactly. Which is an odd little bit to throw in there. I have read in multiple places that he originally conceived of this as a horror movie, which I would probably prefer to see that. I feel like the concept of shared dreaming and building dreams, worlds for people is really rich and has great potential for, all kinds of stuff that isn't really realized in the movie. And I think, just my own taste, I prefer to watch a horror movie than a heist movie. So, or an action movie for that, because it's kind of heist action. It's not it's not overly like, wow, I was about to say it's not overly technical. I guess it is, but it's a lot of the focus is on guys with guns shooting at them and them shooting back, and a lot of heist movies is more like once they get in the bank, they have to do like smaller tasks, So I think it's sort of halfway between heist and action, but structurally it's definitely a heist movie. I would say probably my favorite heist movie is Reservoir Dogs, where the gimmick is it's not about the heist. And number 2 is probably Heist, the David Mamet movie. Which does at least show you the heist. But it's really not about the heist once again. But I guess in this movie it's also not about the heist.
This isn't really about the heist either. And I would say with Reservoir Dogs, like, is it a heist movie if you don't see a heist? That's up for the viewer to decide, I think. But
you do have the assembly
because a heist movie, technically speaking, has certain conventions that you see, in Inception that I don't think you necessarily see in Reservoir Dogs. It's a movie about a heist. I don't know if that means it's a heist movie.
I think it's. It is told out of sequence. That's probably the most unconventional thing about it. But I think if you play the scenes, it does have most of the usual heist scenes. I guess the difference is it lives mostly in the aftermath. Which most heist movies don't do. But if you actually thought a heist, it would be a heist movie.
I think that's an integral part to a heist movie. That's like a romantic comedy being not romantic or not funny or something. But we'll leave Jennifer Aniston movies out of this. Ouch, really?
That was just totally unnecessary.
It was either her or the Tea Party, so, I had to do one or the other.
Fair enough. It's good. The Tea Party's taken a lot from you on this particular podcast.
They'll get some more.
I know they will. So
I'm not done with them.
Don't get happy. Jennifer Aniston is not going to take you forever.
No. Okay, so Inception.
Right, Inception.
So we unfortunately did a little pre-podcasting about this, so there's probably some things we have already said that is not coming to mind because we already said them, but but in general, I guess let's talk about some other things we liked about the movie, and then we can get into some stuff we didn't like maybe, or for me that'll be a very short segment, I guess, but
it'll be a longer segment for me maybe.
But that'll give me a lot of things to tell you how you're wrong. So.
Right.
Nope, you're wrong because
Stay
of this.
tuned to find out how I'm wrong.
Yeah, exactly. That'll be that segment. How Justin's wrong. So other things I liked about the movie. Let me think. You know, of course, visually. I mean, the filmmaking. You know, A+, right? I mean, I can't say anything bad about the filmmaking, how anything looked, how any of the action took place. I mean, so many cool little sequences, and a lot of the dream worlds looked really interesting. You know, but in general, I like the setup of the story. You know, again, it's a heist movie, so it's got these sort of conventions of explaining the world that they're dealing with. You know, it's basically explaining the bank robbery and then setting up which characters are good for which roles, and then using those characters. Pretty much every main actor I really like from something else. Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Tom Hardy. You know, I've seen some other stuff I really love. Cillian Murphy, he's pretty high on my list. I've never really seen him be bad at anything. He's not on my list of like I'll watch anything you're in. That
guy's got a crazy face.
He's got a very interesting face. I don't know what it is, but he's got an interesting face.
There's a couple of shots in this, I was like, wow, man, that guy's face is. You don't see a lot of people that look like that. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying he looks like horrible or anything, but it's just really, really striking.
I think he has a strange. His face to me has a feminine quality to it, but not sort of explicitly because he doesn't look feminine, obviously.
Right.
But there's something with his eyes, or something with cheekbones, or something that he's got sort of a soft look, but at the same time he's got sort of a classic sort of handsome man look too.
Right.
So he's got some interesting qualities, yeah.
Yeah. I think that's right. It's some weird mixture of things that I've seen, and I'm just not used to that combination.
Yeah.
But he was quite good. You know, the part isn't super developed, but I think for what he gets to do, you know, it's as good as he could have done.
Yeah.
I think as far as like directing, it's hard for me to know what to chalk up to directing, but I'll just say the only thing that kind of really didn't work for me in the movie was a lot of the business with the ice fortress. I found that to be kind of tedious. Didn't really like that set up very much, and unfortunately that's where a lot of the ultimate goals are. So
yeah, I think most people that I have seen or talked to about it, that's sort of their least favorite dream world. It's my least favorite dream world. I like the way it looks. I mean, I like the idea of it. I like the sort of, you know, I think it's supposed to be a hospital because I remember them saying something about a hospital. Maybe I'm confused, but I remember them saying something about, unless they're talking about the very end scene where Cillian Murphy's dad is in the safe room, but he's got like his hospital bed. Before they go into that world, they talk about going to a hospital, and then they go to the snow fortress level. So I'm a little confused about that, but yeah, I mean, I like the idea of this secret place. You know, the sort of Fort Knox in his mind is this fortress, and they sort of have to break into it and all this stuff. I guess we're into the part we didn't like somehow, but
we did like. I only brought it up because you were talking about the directing, and I guess I felt like the way some of those action bits were directed was kind of boring.
I think there was a lot of superfluous action in that scene. There's a lot of Tom Hardy killing a lot of people and doing a lot of stuff, and it filled time between all the other parallel action going on, but it definitely was the least interesting about the movie overall.
Yeah.
So, I'm with you on that.
I do agree that, like, in concept, it seems like it'd be cool. I could imagine talking about that and, like, this is going to be awesome. It's the ultimate dream world that's really designed, you know, that we see. You know, and so I expect it to be the apotheosis of everything we've seen, and it has that potential. It never really gets there.
Well, and that's the thing. It could have been anything, you know. I think it's all up to the architect to design it. So it could have been more interesting if the architect designed something more interesting. You know, it's not like the dream worlds themselves, you know, predicate what's going to happen. It's really the architect that decides. So
yeah,
it could have been worse than that. I don't know. It could have been a desert or something, or
it could have. But you know,
yeah.
I mean, that's like the in movie thing. But you know, they're writing this. They can make it as interesting or uninteresting as they want. You know, they can say the architect did X, Y, or Z with, you know, I feel like that's the writers. I mean, opportunity to, you know. But I maybe Limbo is supposed to be that more so. I
think Limbo is supposed to be way more interesting, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's obviously where they spent a lot of time with the visual effects.
Yeah, right. Okay, I was supposed to say what I liked about the movie. I liked the first part of the movie when you don't know what you're watching. I generally speaking don't like the framing device where they show you a much later part of the story and then cut back to the beginning and then eventually catch up. I normally find that sort of takes tension away because you know what your end point is. And I usually don't want to know that. A couple of times it worked. In this case, I think it works mainly because they use it to throw you off, because they cut from this scene that we're going to see later to the same building sort of, but they're younger all of a sudden, and it's a completely different, you know, point in time, but it's the same place. So it sort of throws you off, like, okay, what just happened? Like, did they just turn younger all of a sudden? Like, you don't really know where you are.
The beginning of the movie I really like too, but I do think it's very sort of confusing. I mean, I've seen the movie 3 times at this point. I obviously know what's going on, and you know, you've seen it. You can you know what's going on too. But it's definitely confusing to go from the first scene, which is really chronologically the one of the last scenes, and then the second scene when they're in that big grand dining hall, Saito's dining hall. But they're younger. Well, Leo looks the same, but Saito is younger.
Right.
Saito, I don't know how to pronounce it. And and that's really sort of the first scene chronologically in terms of the heist. Of course, chronologically, the first scene in the movie should be like Leo and or I should say Cobb and Maul doing their dream stuff with Inception originally. The original Inception predates all that stuff.
Yeah.
But in terms of
those are like
the plot of the movie,
sort of.
Well, I'm just saying if you put everything in chronological order, that would be first.
Yeah.
But in terms of the story of the movie, the heist, the first real scene is Saito and Cobb, and then I forgot the guy's name, Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character.
Right.
They're
Arthur,
all talking about this.
I think.
So to cut from the first scene to now this scene, and then to cut from the next scene, which is sort of realizing that they're dreaming, and then to cut to, and then you sort of, in that next scene, you know, there's sort of another level of dreaming too, right off the bat. So the opening of the movie is really confusing, I think. You know, more, obviously it gets straightened out and you can kind of piece together what happened, but yeah, when you're first watching it, it's like, huh, what? Oh, okay, huh? You know? Yeah. And luckily you forget some of the stuff, because I think by the time you get back to the first scene, you've forgotten what was going on there, and you go, oh, okay, yeah, that's right. This was in the beginning, and what was he doing? Oh, this is what he was doing, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The whole movie, I was waiting for that. I sort of realized what they were doing. For me, it was enjoyable to have no idea what was going on and to try to follow it, because then they cut to the apartment, and it's like, oh, okay, they're all dreaming. But it's like, no, they're still dreaming. And so they introduce both, like, the basic idea of shared dreams and built dreams, and also, you know, layered dreams, on top of themselves. They give you both simultaneously, and I just love like in the apartment when like everybody outside is like rioting, and you have no idea why, and it's like what the fuck is going on? Like what kind of movie is this? And I'm thinking, is this set in some kind of post-apocalyptic world?
You do wonder, are they in some country where they're overthrowing their government? Are they, why? And it seems like they're coming for them. Why are they coming for them? And Nolan is great about having the audience ask questions and coming, and being aware of what questions the audience is asking and when. And that's one of the questions you ask is, okay, well, what's going on with these people? And then, of course, they answer that later. These are projections from their conscious, from their subconscious, and they're there because those people are sort of not supposed to be there in that dream world. So. Yeah,
it's the subconscious drones revolting. But when you just walk into the movie and you don't know that, it's really cool to just be presented with this stuff and to have to like try to understand what they're showing you.
Yeah.
And eventually you realize that and it clicks into place, but I think just the experience of going through that was great,
Yeah.
It would probably be different. I only saw it once. It would probably be different if I saw it again. I don't know how I'd feel about all that stuff once I sort of know the answer in advance. But on the first viewing, that stuff works really well, and I definitely at that point thought, this could be great. This is a great start. It gives you a taste of what you're in for, and it tells you things, right away about what kind of story you're dealing with.
Yeah. Yeah, no, great setup. Definitely a great setup. And I like the sort of end scene being at the beginning, Leo going up to Saito. I like that he put that first.
I like the way they used it here. I feel like you need to have a reason to do that, and I think in this movie, the main reason that does it for me is it's totally disorienting. And I just like that. I like that he's willing to just totally throw you off.
Yeah.
By showing you that thing, which actually has nothing to do with the next scene, but yet there's a huge similarity between the two scenes, and so you think they must have something to do with each other. And there must be some direct relationship between the two, but there really isn't. That's much later.
Yeah.
But you see it first. So anyway, I think in this case it was a good move because it paid off. In general, I feel like it's just kind of a teaser. It's kind of like at the beginning of Battlestar Galactica when they just show you a montage of stuff from the episode. I never liked watching that stuff. I don't want to see, stuff from later on in advance.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's another example of Nolan making the audience ask a question and keeping that question in their minds the whole time of, okay, well, he's supposed to go something with this guy. He's supposed to wind up in, how is that going to come into play? And so you're asking yourself that the whole time of how is that first scene going to pay off? Yes. Yeah. Once he got shot, I guessed that would lead to him being in limbo and then Leonardo having to go after him. That was the point where I sort of guessed how they would end up there. Because the whole movie I was trying to, because I knew that, once I figured out what they were doing with that opening scene, I knew we were going to lead to that. Yeah, totally. But it's nice. Cool? I guess ultimate. If I were going to compare this to something, I would say this is a movie for me like The Matrix or Terminator 2, where it's mostly it works on a surface level. I think if you just want a really interesting action movie to watch, it's there, but it's got, it does more than it needs to succeed as an action movie. It's like a fantastic action heist movie. I think, if you go in with that kind of expectation in mind, you really can't be let down. Yeah. Now, if you go in expecting 2001, I think you will be let down. It's really not anything like 2001. I hope no one says it is.
I've seen people say that it is.
Well, people are idiots, so.
And I've seen people say, somehow this guy's like Kubrick or something. I don't really see any of that, but I think it's as far as like action movies or heist movies go, it's really interesting. It frames it in a way that that is just much more engaging than a run-of-the-mill heist movie.
Yeah.
You'll
Well, yeah,
probably...
it gives you something to think about. It's a heist movie for adults or something.
Exactly.
It's a lot more interesting than your average action movie, and it taps into something that everyone can identify with, and can experience. I really like that about the movie too. Everyone dreams, whether you remember your dreams or not. And people have experiences with their dreams and understand how that whole thing works. And I think it's just inherently interesting concept too. So
yeah, it's
got a lot going for it. I also really like, the character stuff. I like, Cobb's whole thing of his whole backstory with his wife. I thought that was really well done. The fact that, this, obviously Maul becomes a problem for him and his job, and he's sort of trying to keep it under wraps, and but then of course the stakes get higher, and it's harder and harder to keep Maul under wraps, and then you have Ariadne's character come in and sort of see through all that and see sort of to the core of his problem, and realize it's going to be a problem. For what they're trying to do, so I thought that was interesting. But yeah, I really enjoyed the fact that it was an action movie that had heart. I thought, like I said before, I mean the impetus of everything is this love story and this lost love and all that stuff, and I enjoy how that plays out. I enjoy sort of the last scene where he explains to them all, in Purgatory, and Limbo. Sorry, wrong show. Got to get my metaphysical locations right. Where he explains to her that, I just like how he resolves the conflict of the guilt with his wife, about his wife, because he explains to Maul, who is obviously not really Maul, it's not really his wife, it's just his projection of her, but he explains that, he and his wife did spend a lifetime together. That was sort of the guilt that Maul kept showing him was, you need to be with me, I want you with me, I want you with me. Basically, it was sort of a selfish thing, but she wanted them to be together. And so he was able to explain to her, well, we did have 50 years together because of this craziness of this dream sharing and the fact that they got sort of stuck in limbo. So really, I thought that was sort of a genius bit on, like you say, it's the movie is better than it has to be. I think that part of the love story and that part of the conflict resolution is better than it has to be, that you can say in the surface level of what we're watching in the movie, they don't end up together in the end, of course, because she's dead, but they don't end up together in the end. But it's really sort of, because of the fact that he realizes that they did actually spend a lifetime together. And so you kind of get that satisfaction of they did, kind of having your cake and eating it too, in a way, of saying, hey, we got, the love story is in check. We had our thing and we had a good time, and now that's over. So I'm going to let you go now so I can try to go back to the real world.
Yeah.
So I thought that was another bit of like, a cherry on the cake.
Yeah. I agree that it was better than it had to be. It wasn't, I didn't totally love it, but it worked. I mean, it was interesting. I like the idea. Again, I always find myself saying I like ideas in this movie. Sometimes the execution I don't like as much as the idea itself. But I like the idea of this guy who's like got this problem and it's sort of haunting his subconscious, and because of the way he works, that that problem sort of haunts him while he's doing his work. Like literally shows up and tries to sabotage what he's doing. I mean, that's a great idea. Because it like just makes literal, normally in a movie that kind of thing is metaphorical.
He'd be walking around with the guilt. He might be drinking. It might manifest itself in some way, but not this way. Not in this dream world way.
Yeah, where she actually shows up, and it's great. They play her sort of like a femme fatale kind of character, and I like the way they shot her. When she's the bad guy sort of in the dreams, and when they show her at the beginning, it's great. You don't know who she is, you don't know what's going on, and she just walks away from the chair and like sabotages his plan, and you just have no idea who you're dealing with, and the what's her name who plays her really conveys a sense of interest. You want to know what's up with her. Yeah. And I definitely when Ellen Page starts digging into Leonardo's mind because she realizes this could be a problem, I think for me at least, I wanted to know too what was going on. So it worked, and they definitely did not pull a Lost in that when they get on that elevator and she's like, "What's in the basement?" I'm thinking we're not going to see what's in the basement for like an hour or something. But then she immediately runs in there and goes to the basement. Yeah. I was like, oh wow, they're really not holding that out at all.
And I think that's the kind of thing that if I had a list of things that not that I don't like, but that I question, it's her tenacity in terms of figuring out what's up with Ka. I think it works. That's her character. I can buy that. But it is, in that scene where she's like, "What's in the basement?" He's like, "Yeah, you don't need to see that." And she just runs and goes and does it. I'm like, God damn you, what are you doing? Like, he obviously did want you to see this thing. Who are you to go and do this? But that's part of her character that she's like that. I think it's a little, they don't ever tell you. Another thing I kind of like about the movie is how they set certain things up and roll with them, and they don't get too deep into it. Why is she so great at being an architect for dreams? Well, because they said she was. Michael Caine says she's better than Cobb, and we go along with that, and then she gets into the dream world the first time with Cobb, and she does some pretty cool stuff. He's impressed, so that validates this idea that she's good at it. Yeah. But, of course, she doesn't know everything. He's still got to teach her stuff. But, she's more perceptive and more understanding of certain things than he is in a way very, very quickly. And, part of me goes, wait a minute, that's a little unbelievable, but I still just roll with it,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I didn't really think – she's just kind of, she was a flat character to me. I didn't really care about her very much, but I think one of her big roles is she doesn't necessarily know everything, so she gets stuff explained to her. And then the other big role is she gets invested in what's going on with Leonardo DiCaprio's character, so that's, again, our vehicle for finding that out, because he's basically keeping it bottled in. So you need some sort of character to act as a catalyst for him to actually face the problem. So I think she serves those functions, and like I said, I wanted to know what was in the basement, so I was cool that she did that, but at the same time, as far as like her character, that was a crappy thing to do. Yeah. Of course, once I found out, I was like, well, maybe I didn't really need to know what was in the basement. But at the time, I was like, okay, basement, come on, let's go. I'm ready. Yeah. So, all right, let me throw out one thing about the movie that I don't understand. I'm not even saying this is bad. I'm just saying I don't get it. Okay. So here it is. It's limbo. I don't understand limbo. You're wrong. Go. So I'll get more specific about what I don't understand. So at some point, I don't know, is it 4 layers down? Is it that specific? If you dream 4 levels deep and then die or something, you go to limbo? Is that, or you're under sedation? So this is my after seeing the movie a couple of times, this is what I gather about limbo. I think there's basically 2 main ideas, right? There's the first idea that
you get to limbo if you are heavily sedated, not normally dreaming, not using the dream share system normally, but heavily sedated and die. You will go to limbo, because basically you're in the subconscious world, and you can't basically wake up, and so somehow you instead of your consciousness, which is in this dream world, instead of it sort of going up to reality and waking up, it goes down into your subconscious. So that's what limbo is. It's basically your consciousness in your subconscious or something like that. Because he sort of describes limbo. We know with his wife, he says, we wash up on the shore of our subconscious or something like that. So that's the first way you get there. That's the main part of the movie, is you get there by being unusually sedated and getting killed. Number 2 way to get there, and we saw them do it in the movie, and we saw Cobb, and that's how Cobb and his wife got there, which was to go down level after level, dreams within dreams, and it does seem like level 4 is tantamount to limbo.
Okay. Now, there's true or false, there's only one limbo, and somehow it's the same limbo for everybody.
Okay, so the explanation of that is and I'll say this because this is the segment. One of the things I love about the movie, one of the best things I love about the movie is how the details are there for any question someone has asked me. I've been able to answer it, and I kind of hope you ask me something I can't answer, but reasonably. Obviously, I don't have all the answers, but I'm just saying reasonably answer questions. So
right,
the answer,
I was just thinking of some ridiculous question I could ask you that you wouldn't know the answer to.
Yeah, exactly. I just mean reasonable questions and having reasonable answers.
Okay.
What was the question?
The question is true or false.
So
it's the same limbo for everybody.
Says, I think he's talking to Ariadne, and this is maybe before they go to limbo or something. I forget when in the movie. But he basically says the only thing left in limbo will be the stuff that was created by whoever was there first. And I actually feel like she's talking when she says this or something. Or somehow I feel like she's in the scene because I remember her voice. And she basically says Cobb was there before. So that's why all of the stuff Cobb and his wife had created. Because remember, limbo takes place is not this abstract place outside of you. It's in your mind. It's your subconscious. It's the dream world of your subconscious, of the deepest level of your subconscious, maybe I should say. When he and his wife went, and again, this is a shared dream, so they're going to be interacting with the dreamer's subconscious. So if it's Cobb's dream and he brings his wife into it, which is I guess sort of maybe the scenario of the backstory, then the stuff that they create together in that limbo will be cemented in his mind, in his subconscious, so that later in the movie, when they go back to limbo, that stuff is still there because Cobb's subconscious is of course connected to the dream share machine. So that's why that stuff is there in limbo at the end, because it was left over from when he was there before.
Okay. So, all right. And the reason the other people see it is because he's there.
Exactly. If he wasn't hooked up to the dream share machine, if he hadn't gone in with them and they went to limbo, it would have been, I don't know what, blank. It would have been whatever Cobb and his wife saw when they got to limbo for the first time. We never saw what that was.
Okay. So so basically none of the other characters had been to limbo before. And
yes.
And if they had, then their stuff would have been there too and combined in some way?
Sure.
I mean
the same way that you have a dreamer, and then you have the participants who share that dream bring in their own subconscious, bring in their own projections. It's the same way with limbo, where limbo is just another dream world that was created. And if somebody enters that dream, like at the end, like Saito, I think is somehow in Cobb's limbo. He washes up on the beach just like everyone who goes to limbo washes up on the beach. And I think because Saito has sort of been living there for whatever period of time in that state of consciousness, on that dream level, he's an old man by the time we see him again. he has that house or that mansion or whatever, and then of course that room that we saw before, the grand dining hall, is the same one that he had in the first part of the movie when he was younger, right? That is something I think he brought in there. So I think it would be some sort of combination of the two, because people are bringing in their own parts of their subconscious when they're sharing dreams. Okay.
So I mean. Yeah, so is limbo a specific place, or is it actually just the fourth level of dreams within dreams? Like, okay, as a hypothetical scenario, like a completely different group of characters gets together and, does what this group of characters did to end up in limbo. Okay, they don't see the same stuff, right? They don't see...
No.
The stuff that Leo built, and
they would not see that at all.
Okay.
Because that is in his mind, and for all intents and purposes is a physical part of his mind. Whatever neurochemical, electrical, physical properties that is responsible for dreams and the storage of dreams and stuff like that. I mean, that is intrinsic to his mind. So if his mind is not hooked up to that system, you're not going to have access to it.
Okay. Now, again, so just back to the original point. I mean, I guess they didn't want to say it's dreams all the way down, but, like, if you fall asleep and have a dream in limbo, like, what happens? Like, if
you what now?
If you fall asleep and have a dream in limbo.
How do you have a dream in limbo?
Same way you have a dream in any of the other places. You fall asleep and...
Well...
You could induce
that's not how limbo works, though. See, I think that's the key difference. Is limbo is
okay, but why? Why is limbo there?
There's a couple things I want to say about this. So number one is, to answer your first question, yes, it does seem like limbo is the fourth level down, and I want to imagine that there is a limit to the amount of levels you can dream. I guess there's a lot of infinite qualities of our realities in the universe and stuff, but. And especially in the mind, but it seems like you can only go dream within the dream for so many iterations before you're basically on this sort of base level subconscious, dream world.
And that's the same for everybody. Like everybody has this.
Who can say except for that's how the movie presents it? I don't.
Okay.
Maybe. I guess I would say that's true. But what I'm saying is, I feel like there should be, or I should say, it makes sense to me that it's not 100 levels of dreams within the dreams before you get to a place where you're so mired in your subconscious that everything is totally different than the other levels before. I mean, that's the whole point of limbo, is that it's sort of so deep down in your subconscious that it's sort of different than the higher levels of the dream world. And going a dream, because think about how crazy it is to go 3 levels of dreaming. I mean, a dream within a dream within the dream, and then the way the movie depicts it is you're going so far down into your psyche that you get to this other place. So, I basically think that's what we're supposed to take from it, is that, one level, the first level of dreams, that's where everybody, everyone goes to that level when they're dreams. People are satisfied with that. Maybe naturally, sort of realistically, people might have a dream within the dream. I don't know if I've ever had that, but maybe that's
I've never
some
had
way.
That, but it's a good idea.
I mean, I feel like if I had a dream within the dream, to me it would present itself as a second dream. I've never had a dream where I went to sleep and started dreaming. So, it gets a little crazy if you try to think about it too much. But...
I've never had a dream where I wake up in my bed.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I see. That would be the other test. I mean, I definitely have had that. I definitely have had dreams where I thought I was awake. It's the typical, like, you think you're getting ready for work or school or something, and then you wake up and then you're not. And
you're still in bed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Maybe that's like that. But yeah, I think the point, the way the movie presents it is that you first of all, going a dream within a dream is already crazy. Using this dream share technology.
Yeah.
3 levels is almost unheard of, right? Youssef, the chemist, says, "Whoa, 3 levels, that's crazy." So I'll buy that the 4th level is even crazier than that, because you're dealing with these large scale expansions of time and all this stuff, and So yeah, did I answer your question?
Yeah, you did. You did. I have to say that I don't really buy it in terms of like as a concept, but just to make clear, like for me, that has zero impact on the quality of the movie. I mean, I don't like working out details like this is not about like how good the movie is to me.
Yeah, I feel like the movie gets to set up its own rules.
As
and
a concept, it totally works. It's cool.
Yeah,
and
I
that's
feel like
what matters.
as long as the rules of the movie are consistent, I think it succeeds. Because again, I've heard Nolan talk about this movie, and he's making a subjective movie. He's setting up rules for how he wants them to work and stuff like that. So it doesn't have to conform to what science says about dreams,
right.
Or consciousness. As long as the rules that the movie sets up are consistent, then I think it works.
That's what makes fiction fun. You get to make up your own rules and I mean, for me, they don't even have to be consistent as long as they're interesting. But I think they are pretty much consistent. And I just don't like. I don't buy that if this were real, they would really have a limbo like this, so absolute. But
well, and what is limbo really? But another very, very low dream state, and they never went there. But maybe you could say you could go to if you created a dream share machine in limbo, maybe you can go to some other place. I don't know. The movie never really hit on that. So
no, absolutely, yeah. It's just something that I wasn't clear on. So that's why I felt the need to ask about it. Okay, so. I guess here's my next thing. The totems. So the idea of the totems is they're a thing that lets them tell whether they're in a dream or they're in the real world. Right? That's their function. They do something with them, and that tells them whether they're in a dream or in the real world. Now, so I get that, and that's fine because you really want to have that, and of course for the ending of the movie it's totally helpful that they have that concept around, but I guess I don't understand how they work. So he makes they show you Ellen Page making like a chess piece that tips over or something, and then I guess what's his name?
Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Yes, thank you. 500 Days of Summer guy.
In the movie, his name is Arthur.
Arthur, thank you. He's got a loaded die, and Leo's got this top, which I guess was his wife's or something.
That was his wife's original. Yeah, that was her totem.
He took it for sentimental reasons, probably. So the die is weighted. I guess the chess piece is weighted, and the top is. I don't know. The top is just a top. It finishes eventually, like all tops do in the real world. Okay, so the idea is I'm done. I don't get it. So they go to the dream world. And
I'm like following you. Yep. Where's the problem? I don't see anything.
So they go to the dream world and they have some version of these items, but for reasons I totally don't understand, they don't behave the same way they do in the real world. So can you help me out with that? I don't get it. Like, why doesn't the top do what it does, just like, his shoes do what they do in the real world? You know what I mean? Like, why is the top a perpetual motion machine? Does it just keep spinning?
I mean, again, I can only give a reasonable answer, which is what I would just say that that's just how the dream world works. That's just a product of the dream world. That this thing that spins will just keep spinning because there is no sort of friction or gravity or anything like those lower level.
There is gravity because they're all held down and objects.
Well,
generally...
that's okay. I mean, you're going to make me verge into speculative mode where I'm going to come up with stuff to answer this question.
Hey, nothing wrong with that.
Because I would say gravity. When they're dreaming, there's gravity because they are dreaming, right? And you sort of assume that there's like when you're dreaming, you're not on the ground because there's gravity in your dream. You're on the ground because you think that there's gravity, right?
Yeah.
So I think that explains why the top keeps spinning, is because, versus Leo and the characters being on the ground, they sort of expect to be on the ground because of our, learned behavior from reality.
I guess I don't even think it goes that far. Like I think the real reason I dream that I'm on the ground is just that that's the way I'm used to the world working. I don't think you have to know about gravity to dream.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, that's why you're on the ground. It's because of gravity. But yeah, it's all about your expectations. And the whole point of when you're dreaming and you realize and you become lucid is that you can break those expectations. You can say, hey, wait a minute. I'm not in the real world. There is no force of gravity on me or, whatever you would say. And then, okay, therefore I can fly if I want to.
Yeah.
And so I feel like now, we're in the realm of speculation here more than the movie is answering this. But I feel like that kind of answer is why the top keeps spinning, because there's nothing on the top telling the top it needs to pretend like it's in the real world. It's just spinning in the dream world, and it's just going to keep spinning.
Okay.
Now, and the caveat there is that I don't think that's how it necessarily should work in a dream world.
Okay.
That's just the way the movie presents that it works in a dream world.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't really understand why. It seemed like there should be some sort of reason why it would behave that way, but I don't think they really made that clear. It just does. Yeah,
so. I think it just behaves that way. I mean, there's some things in the movie that's just the way it is. It's like, the projections, behave the way they behave. Why? Well, that's just the way it's set up.
Right.
In my dream, when I realize I'm dreaming, I don't think that there's my projections become aware of that or anything like that. So. It's just the way the movie sets it up, and it could have been anything. But I mean, I think there's a hint of truth there, right? I mean, I feel like I can remember things of dreams where things don't necessarily behave correctly, and I might not be aware of that in the dream. But if I am conscious, if I'm lucid or after I wake up, then I'll go, wait a minute. I remember having this weird dream the other day where I actually became lucid because I was driving this truck. It's like a truck or SUV, and the whole sort of thing about the dream was I was having issues with this car, and there's other people, and there's other things going on, but the car kept being so hard to drive that it became ridiculous. It just was I'm like, what is wrong with this car? Like the wheel or something it was so ridiculous to drive. I just realized this is not reality. Something's wrong here. This car, because the car was still going, but it was having such a hard time driving that any other car in reality would have blown up or died or just stopped or something. I'm like, okay, something's wrong here. So I mean, you have those. So that's why I feel like the top spinning works, is because dream logic sort of is like that, where you can have these things that don't really correlate to real world physics, but you don't kind of really notice them, so you just go along with it,
Yeah, I guess I agree. Yeah, things don't. I mean, I definitely things that defy physics can easily happen in dreams, but not as a hard and fast rule. All tops shall spin perpetually in my dreams. I don't. There's no reason that's reliable. Any particular thing, you can't say it's always gonna violate physics in this way. You know what I mean? I feel like that's sort of arbitrary. Why would it do that for tops but not for anything, for most other things? His shoes, his clothes, his hair, things that also behave, according to gravity.
I don't know. I mean, what if they would have got a plate and tried to spin a plate? I don't know. Would the plate keep spinning? I don't know.
But I mean, it's not about spinning things. I mean, a lot of stuff is subject to gravity, in the dream. So it seems totally arbitrary that tops would somehow not be.
Well, the top is it's more about the friction than the gravity, right? Because it's still it's not flying around the room. It's on the table. It's the lack of friction that keeps it just keeps going because of that.
Well, yeah,
so there's
but
some
the gravity eventually pulls it down.
Yeah, but I mean,
if there were no gravity and you spun a top, it would just spin forever.
Well, but wait, say that again? If there were no gravity
and you spun the top and there were no gravity, friction's playing a role too, but also gravity is bringing it down rather than up. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. The gravity is keeping the top on the table, right?
Yeah.
And friction is what would stop the top from spinning.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, gravity has a small effect, I'm sure.
Yeah, but the friction is really the big thing that keeps it from either spinning or not spinning.
Sure.
So it's like, it seems like that's what's going on.
The friction's affecting them, too. I mean, that's why they can walk around and drive around, you know.
Oh, totally.
I mean, friction is there in some, you know, in some way for a lot of stuff.
Oh,
so
I totally agree.
Force, you know, whatever force you want to say is doing it, you know, it's affecting things in that dream world, but not tops. You know, again, for no apparent reason.
Yeah.
You know? So I don't really get that. But again, like I said, to me the it's a cool idea, and they get a lot of mileage out of it. It really works, and I'm not saying it's a bad idea. I just think it doesn't really make any sense. You know? So okay. All right. So there's that. Okay. I just want to go back to limbo for a second. I'm stuck on it. So you're telling me they don't sleep in limbo at all?
I don't know. We never saw anyone sleep in limbo.
Okay.
I mean, what do you mean going to sleep?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think they really go to sleep on any of the dream levels.
Well, isn't that how they have dreams within dreams?
Oh, well, I mean, yeah, they use the machine to go to sleep, but I don't think anyone just organically, well, I'm going to go to bed now.
Okay. So when they're living their life for 50 years.
That's what I was saying earlier, like, you know, if in limbo they wanted to manifest one of the dream machines and put themselves in sedation and go to another level deeper, I guess that would work. I don't know. We didn't see it, but I would imagine that could possibly happen. Okay,
but you're saying that under ordinary circumstances they're awake when they're living there for 50 years. They're awake the entire time.
That's the way the movie presented itself. I don't know.
Like,
I mean,
when they
like
come
I said,
out of it, is she like, wow,
it doesn't
sleep,
feel like
what's
50
that?
years. It doesn't feel like 50 years to them.
It doesn't? I thought it did. I thought that was the point. It feels like 50 years, but in reality, whatever, you know, shorter amount of time is going by in the real world.
Oh yeah, when you're in the 50, when you're in that level, yeah. You are experiencing that, yeah.
Yeah, so they're living what feels like 50 years without sleeping, and then they wake up. Like, is that not weird? Like, we just live for 50 years without sleep. Like, what's sleep? Like, we haven't had to do that, you know.
Well, remember these are dreams, right? First of all, these are dreams. So when you wake up from a dream, you're not explicitly aware of everything that happened, and you're making this sort of like analysis of what's going on. Most details in dreams you don't remember when you wake up. Number one. Number two is they were in the fourth level down of their consciousness, so I don't think they remembered a lot of that stuff anyway.
The flashback really made it seem like Leo remembered what happened there. I mean, if he forgot what happened there?
I agree. I mean, I think there's obviously big stuff that he remembered. I'm just saying I don't think he's going to remember every single detail that of the 50 years that went on, just for the virtue of that's not true with any dream that you have, in general. You don't.
Okay.
So if he remembers 10% of that 50 years, I think that's pretty awesome, something like that. But, obviously he's going to remember the big stuff, them creating the world, her problem with not wanting to leave, him in the Inception. The stuff that he showed was a very small fraction of, what actually happened. So I'm just saying in general, I think the movie does use the rule that when you wake up from a dream, it's not like you remember every single thing that happened, which I think sort of explains the end of the movie when Cillian Murphy's character comes out and he sees Leo DiCaprio. I think he's thinking, what, that guy looks familiar.
Yeah.
I don't think he's remembering any of the stuff that happened in the dream. Right. Because it was a dream and they were heavily sedated and several levels down. Those kind of experiences just don't become hard-coded into long-term memories, or at least, easily accessible long-term memories. And, of course, he did just see this guy on the plane, so if he's like, wait, that guy looks familiar, well, he was just sitting behind me, I'm not going to think about this anymore, because it's a very reasonable explanation for him to look familiar if you just flew with someone on the plane for 10 hours. or however much time it was. But to answer your question, in the limbo world, if they slept or not, I don't know. Sure or no? I don't think it matters. It obviously doesn't matter. They didn't show it. And even if they did go to sleep, what does that really mean when you're dreaming? Does that? Because I don't even think going to sleep in a dream necessarily means you're going to go to a deeper dream level. Every time that they were going to a deeper level, it was predicated on using the machine again. Okay. Yes. Right. So maybe the idea is you can't do this naturally, and you have to have like technology to, just like humans can't just fly around without something to help them out. So that's fine. That's fine. I mean, it did seem like Leo remembered a significant amount of that time, but they didn't show it all. So what they showed again was a very small fraction of 50 years. It was the most significant event of the 50 years. It still seems like a lot. Mm-hmm. Well, and I would throw this in there. He is going back and forth between reality and dream worlds after that, and he gets to go explore his mind. So he can probably conjure up those, that whole elevator system, that whole building he created was literally memories that he had organized. So he can remember those things because he pulled them out of his mind and started playing with them. So that's different than someone going to sleep and waking up and forgetting things. Yes. Okay. I mean, it's not an important question. It's just in terms of limbo being the bottom. That's the only reason I get stuck on do they sleep, and also because they live their lives there, and sleep is a normal part of life for the real world. I really think limbo is probably not the lowest level. I just think it's low enough to where the whole point of limbo is in full effect. Of that, you're sort of lost and mired in your own subconscious. Hey, the humanoid could have an infinite level, so who's to say how far it could go? Sure, right, yeah. That's sort of more. I mean, not as like infinite, but I guess I would expect it to be, something not so hard and fast, as some number like 4, and maybe it even varies with different people, depending on brain chemistry or something. That's what my bullshit But don't forget, these machines are I would assume very specific in terms of what they're doing to your brain. So, the brain is all about brain waves and patterns and stuff, and maybe the machine is, it could be very that technical where no matter who you are, it's 4 levels before limbo because of how the machine works. Okay. I'll just probably one of my favorite things from the dream bits was when the train is suddenly in the middle of the street and hits them from behind. That was great. That was probably the part of the movie where I felt like they actually dove in and let some of the possible craziness of a dream, play out. So oh shit, there can just be a train in the middle of the street out of nowhere. That was great. I love that. Yeah. That's probably the closest, once the plot really started going, after the sort of demonstration scenes. That's probably the closest they came to doing the kind of stuff I wanted with the dream world. And that's because that stuff was the arbitrary, unplanned stuff. Yeah. That was the stuff that wasn't designed. That was the stuff they weren't planning on. They didn't count on that stuff happening. So it's more organic because all that stuff was Cillian Murphy's subconscious trying to protect itself. Right. I'm gonna start calling him K-Murph. But it's a C, so you have to say C-Murph. There was a couple of bits. I think particularly it was the scene in the bar with Leo and, what was it, K-Murph? No, C-Murph, sorry. Wow. Yeah, it should be K-Murph, but it's C-Murph. It is. Where he's doing Mr. Charles or something, is that what it is? Uh-huh. And I forgot what gets said, but there's something. Oh, he realizes he's dreaming, I guess. That's the point. And then, the people in the restaurant just all turn and look at them, Mhm.
You know, like that was great as well. Like that that was just creepy, and there's nothing like, you know, a parent group of strangers just suddenly like turning their attention to you for no apparent reason.
Becoming one conscious entity,
yeah.
You don't want that.
It's creepy. Like it. Yeah, I think the subconscious people had some of the appeal of the agents in the Matrix.
Mhm.
You know, they have that quality, and that they're everywhere. You know, populating, and they'll just turn against you out of nowhere.
Yeah.
You know, on the downside, I thought that they were kind of faceless and personalityless, which of course is the part of the point of what they're doing. But you know, none of them really stood out. There was no Agent Smith of the subconscious. You know, and I think in general, like a villain, I know it doesn't fit into the story, but it took some of the interest out of the movie that there wasn't really any kind of antagonist to care about. You know. In the story.
Mhm.
I feel like, to me, that undermines a little bit of the tension of the movie. You just don't have this, you know, because these faceless subconscious guys are cool in a way, but also they sort of lack personality.
Well, the antagonists of the movie are all the little things that get in the way of them trying to accomplish the goal. There's no one character who embodies that idea. Maul is the closest thing that comes to an antagonist in terms of a single character, but you know what they're trying to do, and the obstacles that arise because of that is the substitute for having one character who's trying to stop them the whole time. I think that it would have been less interesting, and definitely would have changed the story, obviously. Well, I guess I should say less interesting. I'd say less interesting for this story, but another story with that might be awesome.
Right, yeah. Obviously, if they wanted to bring that in, they'd have to change the story somewhat. So who knows? Maybe that would actually make it worse in the end. But I just think my involvement in the story was undermined a bit by the lack of some villain to latch on to.
I think since it's a heist movie, and I don't know about you, but I want them to succeed in the end. And I think it would have been way more frustrating to me if they would have, you know, like I said, Maul is kind of the antagonist, but she's not on every level trying to do something at every turn. And I think if she was, that would have been way more frustrating for me, you know, for us to be like, okay, elevator level. Oh, now we're going to deal with Maul here. Okay, you know, the snow level. Okay, well, Maul is there. She kills the guy there, you know. But it's like if at every turn you have to deal with Maul, I think that'd get very frustrating. Since she can't really, you know, since all she can really do is muck things up, since what's really going on is really in the real world, right? Like a true antagonist,
right?
You know, an ultimate power antagonist would have been someone in the real world trying to stop him.
Yeah, and I think the problem with Maul as a villain is that she is just a projection of Leonardo's subconscious, so she's not really an entity in her own right, you know. So
yeah.
She's just doing stuff because he's got problems. He's got psychological problems that are sort of rattling around in his subconscious. So to me, she's not a full-throated villain. She's more like, you know, just
that expression.
Yeah, a sort of metaphor for Leonardo DiCaprio's problems, like haunting him.
Yeah.
You know, that's. I think she's more that than a character, except in the flashbacks, of course.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's why she doesn't really work. I agree. I wouldn't want to see her everywhere. I mean, I'm not a writer. I can't really rewrite this story and put a villain in there. That's just an element that isn't there in the movie that you know, that an action movie typically gives
like
to
it more.
Yeah, potentially. I mean, I feel like I missed that, you know. I did want them to succeed, but I guess I would like them to be able to go against something that had personality.
Mhm.
You know, I feel like that's more interesting than going up against sort of faceless nothing.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, it's an interpersonal story, right? I mean, the antagonist is himself. I mean, and that's, you can have stories where that's the antagonist. So he's really fighting himself, and it's the projection of that antagonist is Maul. So
yeah. Right, exactly. Okay, all right. Another just technical thing. So one of the cool elements in the movie is when something happens to you, while you're sleeping or sedated, I guess, or machine-induced dream state. If something happens to your body, it sort of manifests itself in the dream in some way, And I think, for us normal people, it's usually like the alarm clock gets incorporated into the dream, or the phone ring gets incorporated into the dream, or whatever. This is sort of like that, taken to a higher level, So if they're immersed in water, then water just starts pouring in, from the sides of the building, or if they're in free fall, then gravity sort of stops working and they just start floating around,
Yeah.
So that was cool. I liked that. Now, the thing is that so they're in the van. That's sort of level 1. And the van is falling off the bridge, and that happens for a big portion of the movie. And as a result of that, in the hotel, which is the next level, Joseph Gordon-Levitt Arthur is floating around, having to figure out how to jolt the bodies since there's no gravity. Suddenly, okay, but. Even though their bodies are floating around in that level, in the next level, which is the ice fortress level, gravity still there, isn't apparently being affected at all by what's happening in the previous level. So, I don't know. I don't really understand that.
Well, I like to say to that is the only reason that that they're affected by gravity at all, or the loss of gravity at all, under that heavy sedation, is because he specifically tailored that compound to leave their inner ear functions intact. So that's why they could feel those kicks and everything, because that was important to the plot. So you're saying since they're floating around on the second level, that they should be floating on the third level?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I would say since they're that basically the dream share machine that they used in the second level did not leave their inner ear functions intact. So they're not experiencing that in the third level. Okay.
So okay. So normally if they were in free fall, it would have no effect on the dream.
I don't know. I mean, that's opening up to say you're in 4 levels of dreams, just sort of hypothetically you're in 4 levels of dreams, and if one at the top level, let's say you're not even in free fall in reality, but in that first level of dreaming, you dream you're flying or dream you're falling, then that means that every level after that would be affected.
Yeah.
And so the dream within the dream thing would kind of come crashing down, because then each dream would not be sort of more or less isolated from the top dream.
Yeah.
So it would chain react. Yeah. That'd be weird.
But it depends on the top level, because it's just another. It's just another level on top of something that's straight from the top level. And basically at the beginning of the movie, when you have Leonardo being thrown into the bathtub, that's a dream, and then in the next dream level, he sees the water coming in, the sides of the building. So, so to a certain extent, within the dream, if things happen to your body, it manifests in the next dream level, even if the things that happen are within a dream themselves.
Well, yeah, but I would also say part of that was the fact that he was waking up and the dream was crashing down, so that kind of explains why they were crossing over to each other. He wasn't sort of continuing the dream. The dream was coming to an end. So he was becoming more and more conscious as, that sequence takes place.
Okay, but it was still within the dream. I mean,
But it's on the precipice of him waking up.
Okay, so the dream was affected differently depending on how close to waking up you are or something?
Well, I would imagine that, right? I mean, if you're in deep sleep, you're not going to hear the alarm clock as much as you are if you're, not as asleep but still dreaming, right? I mean, I think in generally speaking, how conscious you are, or I should say, it's kind of weird to say that, how the level of sleep that you're in when you're dreaming would have some effect on how the outside world is infecting your dream.
And see, I didn't think that he was. I thought the thing was falling apart because the person whose dream it was woke up, and that's why it was falling apart. Not because Leo was waking up. I thought the problem was he wasn't waking up, and that's why they pushed him in the bathtub.
Oh, that's right. It was the other guy. It was the other guy who had woke up. That's why. Yeah, that's why it was coming apart. That's right. But I mean, his waking up. I mean, he would have had to wait. How did it go? Because they gave him the kick. I forget how the beginning works. Because why did they give him the kick?
I thought they gave him the kick just because they didn't want him to. They wanted him to wake up.
But I feel like he was going to wake up anyway. He wasn't like
they wanted him to wake up right then, and they couldn't.
Yeah, exactly. I think that was the thing is they wanted him to wake up right then. I think he would have woken up, very soon after, if because the dream world was gone. Like, I guess we never saw what happens, but I mean, like, what would his consciousness do without that dream world? I think he would have been woken up anyway. Maybe it would have taken another 30 seconds or whatever, a minute. I don't know how long it takes to get out of it, but.
Okay, so you're saying it's a special situation, and.
Well, I'm just saying that situation it has some extra qualities to it. I don't know if that means that it's any different than any other scenario.
Okay, yeah, I guess what I was going to say is if they had knocked him into the water earlier, it would have had no effect on the dream.
No, I mean, I think like they showed with Yusef, the chemist, when they go to the first level of Dream World, it's raining because he's got to use the bathroom.
Okay, good. Yeah,
and that's
there's an example.
Yeah, but again, that's sort of an internal thing. But yeah, I'm just saying, it's not raining on the subsequent levels just because it's raining in the first level.
Yeah. So that's where I just don't get it. I mean, it should be, I think.
Well, I don't think it necessarily should be. It seems like it depends on who's getting affected by, by the.
If it's raining, everyone.
Yeah, but here's the thing: it's raining in the dream. It's raining in Yusef's dream because Yusef has to use the bathroom, right?
Okay.
Okay. Now for Leo, who's in that level 1 dream, when he goes to level 2, it's raining on him in. Well, I guess when they go, well, they're in the van at that point, so it's not really raining anymore on them. So
yeah,
it shouldn't be raining, I guess.
If it's not raining on them, yeah, it shouldn't. But the when they go off the bridge, the fact that they're in midair does affect the gravity for everyone at the next level.
Mhm. Yeah. Okay. So let me think. Let's see. So they go off the bridge in the first level, and the second level, there's no gravity. So, like I said, the best explanation I can come up with is that it has to do with the machine.
Okay.
Which is why they don't. There's gravity in the other levels.
Okay.
Because it just seems like there's a difference to me between what's happening with your body, and maybe there's not, but I feel like there's a difference between what's happening with your body in the real world affecting your dreams and what's happening to your body in a dream affecting lower level dreams.
Okay. I mean,
I feel like there is a difference. But
that appears to be somewhat the case, but it isn't clear exactly what the difference is. Yeah. Since they show elements of it being the same and elements of it being different. Yeah. So okay. That's, again, very much a nitpicky kind of point. Which has no effect on the quality of the movie for me. Okay, so let's see. What else? Oh, I had something specific in mind. Oh, I have to admit, I didn't really understand the Tom Hardy character.
Mm-hmm.
Can you? I only saw it once. Can you tell me, like, what does he do? Like, he impersonates other people. Like, I feel like I missed some bit of information about him.
Well, they don't give you much. Basically, yeah, he's very good at studying people's behavior, and so basically, what he did was his job for the main con, or the main job, his function for the job, the heist, was to impersonate Browning. Was it Browning? The Tom Berenger character, Uncle Brown, or whatever his name was.
Yeah.
Cillian Murphy's uncle.
Right.
Not real uncle, I guess, but, uncle.
He called him uncle, yeah.
Yeah. So he studied his behavior. He, obviously got a good look at what he looks like, so he could, make himself look like that, and study his behavior so he can act like that. It's just, so basically, it is like when he's in a dream world, he can, just like a dreamer or an architect can reshape the world, he can reshape his appearance in the dream. And so that's like his special skill set, is to accurately mimic whatever character or person he wants to imitate.
Okay. How much does he have to know about that person to do it?
I think all he needs to do, honestly, it looks like he just needs to look to see them for some period of time, or be around them. That's all we see. All we see is that one shot of him at the father's office, at their office when the lawyers are talking, and he's looking at Brown, and that's it. And then he can impersonate him.
Okay.
It doesn't mean he's going to know that guy's memories or thoughts or anything like that.
Right. He's not the smoke monster.
Yeah. Spoiler alert.
Sorry.
I don't know if it's spoiler.
But yeah, that's okay. Nice bit that, he has to impersonate the guy, and then there's the subconscious version that pops up.
Which is predicated on that first impersonation.
Yes.
I love that. Because it feeds that idea back to Cillian's character, back to himself.
Yeah, they plant ideas in his head about who that guy is, and he takes those and runs with them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's weird because it's just, we see all this. It's like, I guess there's some kind of tagline for this movie about the scene of the crime is your mind or something.
Yeah.
I think. I don't think that's exactly the best tagline for the movie, but at the same time, I think it's weird that what we see is so, it's on the one hand, on the surface, it's kind of classic, like, action movie stuff and heist movie stuff, you know, in terms of, like, the subconscious, people manifest themselves as henchmen quite nicely,
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, it's totally metaphorical. It's actually him, his subconscious is like trying to defend itself against people like them, basically, and he doesn't really realize that, so he ends up sort of, sneaking around them or having to, having to deal with them. So it's, like, all the conflict in the movie is this stuff going on in people's minds.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just weird. Like,
it's almost like your mind is the scene of the crime.
That's what I was trying to get at. Like, very little actually happens in the movie. It's mostly like brain signals. Yeah,
the movie takes place in the mind.
Like, I think there's some scenes at the beginning that are supposed to be the real world, but it's largely not, and
yes,
and most of the conflict is from the dream world, and definitely all the resolution is in the dream world, both for C. Murph and Leonardo DiCaprio's character.
Mm-hmm.
So,
but the whole point is that resolution will be brought back with them to the real world.
Yes.
So
yes.
Even though the catharsis is technically, after they come out of the van and splashes into the river or whatever, and Cillian is on the bank, he's going, yes, I know what my father meant now. I'm a happy man. But he's going to take that idea back to the real world. So, yeah.
But whereas in most movies, if you had a guy leading a heist with problems and the heist becomes an occasion where he has to face those problems and deals with them, most movies, that is a metaphorical process. In this case, it's a literal metaphorical process where we actually see it, and yet it's still metaphorical because it's going on in their minds, and it's representations of things that we're seeing. So
I think that's what the movie talks about, is the difference between dream and reality, and what really is the difference. There are differences, obviously, but I think that is the power of dreams, that that your consciousness can still experience things.
Yes. On a minor note, Michael Caine's character, I don't know about you, but I had a hard time telling the difference between Michael Caine's character in this movie and Alfred from The Dark Knight. Can you tell me what differences?
I think this is what Alfred does when Bruce Wayne is on vacation.
Okay.
So his character, when I first watched the movie, I thought, oh man, it's so cool that they didn't even tell us, what Michael Caine did, like what subject he taught, because I thought the architect stuff was sort of more a generalized idea of an architect. But I watch it again, I just have to assume he's an architect professor.
Yeah, I think
and
that's what he is.
Ariadne is an architectural student.
Yeah.
I thought when they kept talking about architects, it was more like the idea of an architect, but they've got these other skills, or they're studying something else, but we need, something like that. But
yeah.
I guess she's just an architectural student.
It looks like the idea is supposed to be that having real-world architecture skills is some kind of prerequisite to, building the dream world, that the same skills apply, and that basically it's attractive because you don't have to obey the laws of physics, although she did for the most part.
Well, the main reason to use an architect was to ward off the projections.
Right.
And then, of course, helping to ward off projections is the ability to bend the laws of physics.
Right. So like that, but that was like the attraction, because she's about ready to walk away, but she comes back because of the appeal of designing sort of with free reign. Yeah. Which is something she'll never be able to do, just building buildings in the real world. Yeah,
she can design stuff that can never exist. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's very appealing. I mean, it's easy to understand, and probably the most dazzling sequence in the movie is the bit where her and Leonardo DiCaprio walk around in Paris or something, and all kinds of stuff happens. It's great, the thing folding on itself, and the bridge and the mirrors and all that stuff was really good.
So speaking of the mirror scene...
Yeah, I brought up the mirror specifically because I've heard you have a theory about that.
So I'd like to know what you took from that, because that's probably one of the few parts of the movie. I think Nolan is great at eliciting questions from the audience and then answering them pretty expertly for the most part all throughout the movie. But there's a couple, it's like, when you watch certain scenes, you pretty much understand what you get out of them, right? Okay, I'm supposed to think this, or I don't know what I'm supposed to think yet, but then later they tell you what you're supposed to think. So I don't get the mirror scene. Do you know what we're supposed to get from what was going on there?
Honestly, no, I don't. When you said that, I realized I hadn't even thought about it. I hate to be superficial. It looked cool.
Definitely looked cool.
It was a little bit. It possibly may have been an homage to a shot in Citizen Kane of the same type.
Okay.
But all that is sort of meta stuff. It doesn't really explain what's going on in the story.
Like why is that scene there? What is that scene contributing to the story or the characters? That's sort of what I'm trying to figure out.
Yeah, honestly, I don't know. I never thought about it, and then when I saw your little Twitter post about it, I gave it some thought, and I got nothing. I really don't know what that's. I'm curious to hear what your theory is about it.
Well, I'll never tell you. No. So okay, so basically, if you don't remember this scene, I'll set it up. Ariadne and Cobb are walking through Paris, and this is just after she has made the city fold on itself, and we saw the big scene when they're at the cafe and all the objects around them explode. So they're walking through, and basically the topic of the conversation is the projections. She's changing things in the dream world very drastically, very radically, very rapidly. And he's telling her, you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't alter this world like that because it alerts the projections that someone else is inside this dream that's not supposed to be there. Someone is in this subconscious that isn't supposed to be there. And therefore they will come and attack you if you do it too much for too long or whatever, what have you. So that's sort of the topic of the conversation right when the mirror scene happens. She creates the bridge that she walks over, and then she walks across the bridge, and then she just, out of nowhere, grabs a mirror. I don't know why that mirror is there. And she moves it, and then she grabs a second mirror and moves it. And then the two mirrors are, of course, parallel, and they reflect, and then you see sort of infinite projections of the two of them. And I got to say, as an aside, every time I see that scene, I expect to see the camera. When they move the mirror, you expect the camera to be, oh no, they're going to show the cameraman. And then they never do, of course.
That would be hilarious if they showed the cameraman.
Yeah, I'm just because okay, if they move the mirror this way,
you have to see the camera.
Yeah, they're going to show the camera. Oops. But they thought of that.
They really did. They're just not good.
Okay, so before I tell you my theory, I don't know if these mirrors are really there in Paris at that bridge. I don't know if that's some part of the landmark. I have to assume this is the movie set and not a real object in that location in real life, or else I'd have a different opinion about what's going on here.
Right, those big mirrors are probably not there, I would say.
Probably not there, although it's Paris, I wouldn't be that surprised, right?
Sure.
We have mirrors. I don't know. That much. Okay, so here's my crazy theory. So Cobb is talking. So, okay, basically, like I said, so she puts the mirrors parallel to each other. You see these sort of infinite reflections of Cobb and Ariadne, and then she touches the mirror, and it shatters, and he goes like, ooh, nice, or good job, or he validates something that she did as special or cool or interesting. And then she just keeps walking, and then the next part of that sequence is he realizes that they're in a real location, that she created something from a memory instead of something from scratch, and then they go into that topic of conversation. So, like I said, the previous conversation topic was these projections, okay, and how they live in this world, and they basically don't know that they're in a dream world until an architect or the dreamer or whoever starts changing things, and then they kind of start looking for the thing that stands out, which is usually the person who's changing things, and then they sort of go attack, which is basically, in my opinion, them sort of realizing they're dreaming, the sort of reality. They don't ever sort of, I guess, fully realize that they're dreaming, but they do. But they're less plugged into the sort of status quo of the dream, if you know what I mean, right?
Right. It's sort of the analogy they use is like white blood cells. So it's sort of like the brain recognizes there's an invasive agent there.
Yeah.
And it starts trying to fight it off.
Yeah. So my theory about the mirror scene, and it's basically heavily predicated on the topic of conversation, is the idea that that they're talking about all these projections who don't know that they're sort of in a dream world. They're going to the shops and they're doing all this stuff. When she creates the infinite projections of themselves with the mirrors, and then touches it and it sort of shatters, to me it seems like the idea might be the fact that, something along the lines of all of the other projections in this world might be dreaming on their own accord, that just like Cobb and Ariadne are in dreams and are dreaming and are conscious about it, that the projections might have their version of that. So almost the idea that, and then when they sort of create the infinite versions of themselves, the idea that, Cobb and Ariadne could be projections in someone's mind just as those projections are in their mind. Which is a lot to get out of the mirror scene. Okay. But, I mean, it's such a striking bit of imagery that, it's hard not to try to do something with it, I think. Yeah. I don't know. I really, when I was watching it, I was just kind of blown away, and so I didn't really try to think it through at the time. And maybe if I watch it again, I would get a better idea. Okay, so what you're saying is, hold on. You're saying that they're realizing that even the subconscious beings have their own perception. Is that what you're saying? Something like that, and not necessarily that they're they don't comment about it, obviously. I'm just trying to figure out what Nolan might be trying to tell us, other than this is a pretty shot. What he might be trying to say about the fact that she basically creates or shows infinite versions of themselves with these mirrors. And then when she sort of touches it, it sort of literally shatters that reality of these infinite versions of themselves. So I feel like it's almost, and this is just me throwing in my own ideas, obviously, but it's almost like she's on the verge of almost realizing that the difference between a dreamer and a projection is really not much. Okay. That she she just created all these versions of themselves in this dream world, and it's like, okay, are those versions of themselves tantamount to the projections? Right. And since they are in this dream world, and of course the projections are in the dream world, and the projections don't know that they're dreaming, I think that says something about their place in the dream world. Mm-hmm. Because the projections think the world is real. Yeah. Right. Until they kind of realize it's something's up. Yes. So that's my crazy theory about what that scene might mean. I don't think it's that's what the characters realize necessarily or anything like that. They just kind of say, oh, that's cool, and they go along with the story. Yeah. But Nolan to me doesn't seem like the kind of director who just does stuff to do stuff, and it was such a very specific thing to do, because it's not like she passed one mirror and then created another mirror or something. It just all of a sudden there's just these two mirrors, and she's going to move them. I'm just going to move this mirror, and I'm going to move this mirror, and it just was like, well, what? Why are there mirrors there in the first place? And what is making what makes her move them to create this image? I don't know. Right. I guess to me the projections were literally projections of the the subject's subconscious, and so mm-hmm. they're images that appear because of this constructed world that's around that's put in the brain of the subject. But I guess I thought they were I didn't think I basically did not think what you're saying is true. Mm-hmm. I guess I thought they really don't have any internal that they're just they manifest themselves this way, maybe just because visually it makes more sense or whatever, but the point of them is really just they represent the subconscious, and that's why they go they start getting aggressive when they realize the subconscious has been invaded, collectively. Mm-hmm. Because it just doesn't seem like they have an individual will. Well, but I'm saying, that's kind of my point is their default nature is to act like the dream world is real, because like you said, there are projections of the subconscious, but it's not like so to me they're really like one thing.
You know what I mean? It's manifests a bunch of people, but it's really all just one entity, this one person's subconscious.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Not a bunch of personalities. One personality, but a bunch of different, things together represent that one personality.
Mm-hmm.
And that's sort of how they behave. I mean, when they're in stasis, they behave like individuals, at least like from afar, that's what it looks like. But I feel like that's just a representation of the subconscious being satisfied that, things are kosher with the world they're in. But it's not a representation of the individual personalities of the projections.
Yeah, I can see that.
Because I feel like they only, for except for the parts where they seem to be okay, they pretty much just behave collectively.
Mm-hmm.
We don't see any individual stand out. That's something that I might have liked in the movie, but they really don't do that.
Yeah. Well, Maul stands out.
Right. But I feel like Maul's different.
Because she stands out.
Well, no, but I feel like Maul's like literally different from the subconscious projections. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I guess, because it seems to me like the subconscious projections were projections of the subject. But it was Leo's, like, the fact that he had this psychological trauma meant that he brought along some extra baggage with him. Like, I would assume that, the other people, if they had similar problems, stuff from theirs could manifest as well.
Mm-hmm.
But to me, that's different from the sort of population,
mm-hmm.
which is the subject's subconscious. That's sort of these outsiders bringing their stuff in.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that's the whole. I mean, that's what I got from the movie is that everyone brought their stuff into the world.
I mean, I think that's the idea, but I think it's only Leo that really ever brings anything.
Hmm.
And the rest of the time, it's the host of the dream, subconscious, that's manifesting the the population, the people.
Mhm.
And that's why, just because they're the one that's actually doing the dreaming and is inhabiting their mind is inhabiting this world that's been constructed.
Yeah.
For them. So the population inhabiting it is just a representation of their subconscious accepting this stimulus.
Mhm.
Basically. So, but then there's the outsiders who go into that dream as well to do something, steal secrets or Inception in the case of the movie, and they might bring along stuff with them, but I feel like that's distinct from the subconscious of the actual person. So I guess what I'm saying is if Leonardo DiCaprio, made himself the subject of a thing, I feel like he'd have his own like population, his subconscious population, and
Well, I mean that's where they are in the mirror scene. They're in his mind, and so all of those people, all the projections are his projections.
There you go. Yeah,
and that's and Maul is there too, of course, but yeah, I mean that's what he says. When she's saying the projections are going to come after us, and he's like, no, just you.
Yeah. So I guess what I'm trying to say is he brings along Maul with him to other people's dreams, but he doesn't bring along his whole population, subconscious people. It's other people's subconscious depending on the dream.
Yeah.
So that's why I feel like Maul is different, because I feel like she's a manifestation of a specific issue that he's having, whereas the subconscious is just this general population that everybody has.
Yeah, I can see that.
But the idea that they all have individual personalities, like, that's crazy. I mean,
Well, I wouldn't say that they necessarily have individual personalities, but just the idea of being basically like sort of mirroring the the other stuff that's going on between dream and reality, of the fact that they are these projections in this dream world, assuming the dream world is reality, going along with it like it's reality, but they are also subject to realizing this is not quite reality when they are, trying to attack the foreign body.
Right.
They get sort of drawn out of that idea that this is reality.
Yes. Yeah, that's the problem.
It is a problem. What did you say? That's a problem, or that's the problem?
That's the problem with them.
What's the problem?
That they might realize what's going on.
Yeah.
And turn against whoever's bringing in the the stuff.
Yes.
So yeah, okay. I mean, I think your interpretation is interesting. I guess, yeah. I mean, I didn't take those people that way, but that very well could have been what he was trying to say.
I don't know what he's trying to say. I doubt I'm right because it's such a weird thing, but I was just trying to piece together all the parts of that scene and try to get some main idea out of there. And since they're talking about the projections, basically, I don't want to say realizing they're dreaming, but the projections being drawn out of the reality of the dream world, and having her sort of create these infinite versions of the two subjects who are dreaming, who are not projections. She's creating projections out of them, and then for whatever reason she touches it and it shatters. That's what my brain came up with, that crazy theory.
Mhm.
I felt like it was trying to say something about how they relate to that world in terms of the other projections.
Yeah. Yeah. I see.
But anything else? What are the other big things?
I did like how they played the resolution that he tells his wife that who in limbo, so it's not even his wife, it's his projection of his wife.
Mm-hmm.
He eventually tells her, like, you're not good enough, you're my version of you, and I thought that was nice. I guess it finally hit me, like, that's it. That's in Lost. That's what the problem with Jack's son is. That's why he's so, like, he needs to hear this one thing from Jack, and he just loves him forever after that. Like, he's too simple, like that's what makes him like a construct. Like he just doesn't have the complexity of an actual person.
Yeah.
So I think that's I think it was good for him to actually say that.
Well, I think there was a huge realization for him to have, and I think it works really well for the story, that this idea that, and he says it very well, that, as much as I imagine you be my wife, all the perfections and imperfections, I can never get it right. I can't make you her, no matter what, even though it's this dream world and it feels real, you're just an approximation of her, and you're not really her, and realizing that is a huge deal.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, because I feel like that's because even though she is a special case and she is, given much more personality than most of the projections, but it's like, even she is sort of lacking to a certain extent.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, I think that was, that was pretty well played. What I didn't really understand, for example, just like how the details work, like they show, them in the real, like, so she ends up, I guess he plants in her mind the idea that the world she's living in is just a dream, so that they'll go lay in front of the train and like get kicked out of the limbo, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So then when she wakes up, that idea is still in her mind, so she still thinks she's dreaming.
Mm-hmm.
And so she ends up killing herself because she thinks she's going to wake up. Okay, so I'm
Yeah.
at least I'm right so far. Okay, so the way they show it, she goes out on a ledge across the way from where he is.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really understand how she got there, but okay, she's there, and she's like, what did she say? I called the police, or she filed a report. What did she do? She did something.
So she did a couple of things. Number one is she filed a letter with their lawyer saying, I'm fearful of my husband. I think he might want to try to kill me, something to that effect. Number two is she got herself certified sane by 3 separate psychologists. So basically, Leo would not have the option to just try to ration with police and tell people, hey, she was crazy, or hey, we did this idea, or hey, I incepted something in her mind, or anything like that. Say, well, these 3 psychologists independently say she was not crazy. So no, that was number 2. And then 3 was she, ransacked their hotel room to make it look like there was a fight or a struggle or something.
Oh, they were in a hotel room.
That was a hotel room, yeah.
So what, she got the room across the street? Is that what happened?
Well, the only reason I think that there's 2 reasons I think she's across the street. One is a filmmaking reason, is I think it looks better.
Okay.
And number two is a character reason for her, which I think pretty much works, that if she was on the ledge outside of her hotel room where he walks into, he could have just grabbed her and pulled her back in.
Right.
She wanted to be inaccessible to him.
Right. But then the problem to me is she's trying to pin it on him, and so, or at least like threaten him with being, held accountable for her death. So, but if she's jumping from across, I mean, can't they tell that she jumped from across the way where he was? Like, can't they just figure out the trajectory and be like, okay?
Could they? Yes. Now, would they say, with all the evidence there, and Leo says, well, wait a minute, she jumped from across the other side, and they had all the other evidence, will the jury still not convict him? I don't know. But could they? Yes.
Okay.
Maybe they could. But I would also say, they weren't that far apart to where the body, it's reasonable that the body could have flung wherever it flung from that side versus the other side, They weren't, it wasn't like they were 100 yards away or something, or, they were close enough to where I think a medical examiner would have said she fell from the story above and,
Right.
But again, she wasn't trying to frame him.
But if she went and rented the room across the way, I mean, they could find that out,
I don't think she necessarily even rented the room across the way. I don't know how she got there. Say there wasn't a way to get over there we didn't see off camera. The 2 sides could have curved around or something, close together. So I don't really know how she got over there. But again, she wasn't trying to frame him. She was trying to give him reasons why he shouldn't stay in this fake world. She's basically saying, hey, I'm going to jump, and I want you to come with me. And in order to make sure you don't try to stay here, I'm going to make it seem like you killed me. I'm going to give you reasons to come with me.
Which is framing him. I mean,
okay, yeah. But, I mean, she's not trying to frame him. She's trying to get him to come to the real world with her.
Yeah.
And in order to do that, she does frame him, yes. But, I mean, she's not trying to frame him as a mean man.
She doesn't want to frame him for its own sake, but just out of spite or something. But, yeah, she does. Okay, all right. So. Okay, the other thing is, like, if she's someone who doesn't believe that she's living in the real world, whoever declared her sane didn't do a good job.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's the kind of thing that kind of automatically makes you somewhat suspect in the sanity category, if you don't think the world you're living in is the real world.
Well, but obviously she went to the people and didn't tell them that. She's playing the part, right?
I understand, but still, they're supposed to be testing for that. Like, they should, They should, if it's a good test for sanity, it shouldn't be something you can just like lie your way out of.
Yeah, I don't know. I've never had a test like that. I can imagine they ask her like, do you believe this is the real world? And she says yes. I mean, how else do you convince someone believe? How do you convince someone you believe this is the real world?
I don't know.
Okay, that's all I got, too.
I don't know. I was just saying, like, she is basically insane. And, you know, those tests are supposed to figure that out.
Here's the question, though. That's an interesting point you're trying to make. What is the definition of insanity? Because is it just an incongruency between reality and what somebody thinks? Is that
yeah.
the base level?
I mean, roughly, that usually something like that is in there.
What's strange is she basically has a truth implanted in her mind that is a real truth. So it's basically like saying, we here think the sky is blue, and all of a sudden we're on another planet. And that psychologist says, what color is the sky? And I say, the sky is blue. And they say, no, you're insane. The sky is red. But it's like, it's this weird thing where it is a truth. It's not, but it's an incongruency, which is the problem. It's not like she made something up. It was sort of a truth that was true in a particular reality, which just unfortunately is not the reality that is the real world.
Right.
So
right.
Yeah, that's what's weird about it. So she's insane to the degree that her views on life aren't widespread.
Well, yeah. I mean, unfortunately, sanity is kind of relative.
Yeah.
It's the sort of majority is held up as sane.
Hey, sanity is relative. Let's leave your Uncle Carl out of this.
Oh.
Man, if you had an Uncle Carl, that'd be such a diss.
It really would. Yeah, that's. I in a way, I agree with you. Like, in a way, she isn't insane.
Mm-hmm.
So I see what you mean. I guess what I'm saying is, by our normal definitions, I think she counts as insane.
Yeah.
You know, if someone's going around saying this world isn't real, we're in a dream, we just got to die so we can wake up.
Mm-hmm.
I think that pretty much heads you down the path of being insane.
Yeah.
If you really believe that.
I agree. I mean, I guess, yeah, the psychologists didn't do, they did their job. Did they get to the root of the problem? No. But I think, like I said, I've never taken a sanity test.
Yeah.
I don't know how you can prove it, especially if you're not, manic, or you're not, if you're calm and collected and intelligent and can carry conversation and can answer certain questions reasonably, I feel like you could pass that test. So
yes.
The only question that would make you fail is whether or not you believe you're in the real world. And that's something you can lie about. I don't know how you prove that otherwise.
Yeah. Right.
Without having just to answer that question.
Right.
But yeah, again, it was just really a setup for him to have seemingly have no choice but to come with her.
Yeah. I thought it was a weird bit. It reminded me a little bit of Lost that Sato, is it Sato or Saito? It's killing me with that AI thing.
Yeah, I think I would say Sato because it's A first. So.
Okay.
Whatever.
So Sato basically claims, and it looks like it turns out to be true, he can just make a phone call and Leonardo can just be swept through customs even though he's sort of on the run because of this crime that they think he committed. So it's weird, like why does this guy have that power? Like it's they don't really explain it. And it's nice that he's just like, well, you can trust me or you can just never know,
Yeah. I don't know why he's obviously a very powerful guy. He's his main competitor is the company that is about to take over half of the world's energy supply. So he's pretty high up on the totem pole, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll buy that he can make a phone call and get people to wave somebody through customs for for something like that.
Yeah.
I kind of assume he got the charges dropped, but maybe it's just more simply that he got him waved through customs.
Yeah. I kind of assume that too. I assume basically he just made all of his troubles disappear in terms of legally speaking.
Yeah.
Because it definitely comes across like that, whether it's a dream world or not, it comes across like he's just going home and everything's all right, there at least.
Yeah. Yeah, because, I mean, it's a little not that great if he's still in trouble with the law at the end, right? Even if he gets home in the real world and he's still in trouble, like, that's really not safe, you know?
Right. Yeah, no, that would be really bad. I also wondered about the Michael Caine character. He's supposed to be Maul's dad?
So that's Maul's dad.
Okay, that's what I thought. So I guess he doesn't think that Leonardo DiCaprio killed her, presumably?
No.
He certainly doesn't act like it.
He never says, I blame you for my daughter's death. He never says anything like that. I think he probably explained to Michael Caine's character the Inception and what happened, and and I want to imagine that while Maul was dealing with these problems and wanting, thinking that she wasn't in the real world before she kills herself, I feel like the dad is probably aware of that, and Leo, since they're seemingly friends, came to him and confessed or something at some point, or at least told him something about, she's been having these problems ever since we left the dream world and blah, blah, blah. So maybe by the time she killed herself, he was aware that she was having issues with reality or something,
Yeah.
But yeah, he never is antagonistic about that, which is interesting. So here's a question people have brought up that I think they sort of, at least some people want to put this in the he's still dreaming at the end category, is the fact that Michael Caine is at the airport at the end and takes him to the house to see the kids.
Yeah.
Do you think that has any bearing on how we're supposed to view the ending?
Ooh, fuck.
Since of course, when we first see his character, he's in Paris. He seems to, be a professor at a school in Paris. Are you thinking? Or did I lose you? I think I lost you. Wow, it's my time to vamp. I think we lost Justin. Wow, is this what it's like? Oh, now I got to find a news story. Well, since he's not on the phone, I'll say he's always wrong about everything, and I'm always right. I'll just say that off the bat. Oh, I kid. Let's see what's up news-wise.
Oh, I'm back.
Oh, you're back. Oh, I was going to go to the news report.
No, I heard you vamping. It was great. I've never got to hear that. I never dropped.
Yeah.
I accidentally just hit the hang up button.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah.
That's how you hang up.
It really works.
Yeah.
I verified. My hang up button is functional.
Nice.
Oh, and it looks like my phone's running out of battery. Wow.
Oh, cool.
What timing? Okay, so I'm going to switch phones. Sorry for all this business. So what was your question? Did you have one?
Does the fact that Michael Caine is at the airport at the end have any bearing on how you view the ending? I'm gonna say not much.
I guess I'll just say how I view the ending.
Yeah, let's talk about the ending.
So the ending, first of all, let me just say, nice. Really, almost like a punchline kind of ending. When I went to see it in the theater, it got a slight chuckle. People laugh at it. I think it's because I almost feel like that reaction is because it feels like a joke has been played on them. It does. Like, oh, all of this and we don't get a final answer. Yeah. Ha, joke's on us. Pretty much, yeah. Yeah, and it has that component. But and I'll admit, like, I find it a slightly amusing ending because it's so blatantly ambiguous. You know. But my take on the ending is that basically for Leonardo DiCaprio's character, and for me as an audience member, it doesn't actually matter what the top does, which is to say, it doesn't matter whether he's dreaming or not, because his problem that he started the movie with has been resolved, you know, and it's already been resolved sort of in another dream world, you know, and so if he's gonna live out a happy existence for, you know, the rest of his life in another dream world, okay, maybe that's not perfectly ideal, but he dealt with his big hang up. And so to me, ultimately, it's a happy ending either way. And to me, I don't see it as a big deal whether or not the top drops. So that's why, whether Michael Caine appearing doesn't really affect my interpretation of the ending because that's what it is.
Okay.
But if I really wanted to get invested in is he dreaming or not, and I thought that was crucial, then I would say, they do make a deal about the grandmother watching the kids, and Michael Caine's supposed to be in France, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that he shows up and you never see the grandmother, it's a little weird. I mean, it's possible. I mean, he could have flown there to meet them, and the grandmother was shown kind of not like Leonardo DiCaprio, so maybe she just didn't, she just left or something because she knew it was coming. She didn't want to see him. Like what we saw is possible in the real world, But is it a clue? Maybe it could be.
All right, an ambiguous answer to an ambiguous ending. Well done, my friend. Yeah, I mean, I pretty much feel the same way in terms of Michael Caine's. I think I'm all about reasonable answers, right? Reasonable questions and reasonable answers, and I think it's very reasonable that
if it's not, it should be on your business card.
Right. Reasonable answers for reasonable questions for reasonable prices. Call me. I feel like they presented his character as someone who likes Cobb and who's invested in him getting back to his kids and stuff like that. And I think again, like you said, with the grandmother not liking Cobb, I think it would have been different and maybe too weird if it's the grandmother who is there to greet him when he comes back with the kids. A character we've never seen before.
Right.
We only heard her on the phone. We're seeing her in the last moments of the film.
Yeah.
She doesn't even like this guy. How is she going to be reacting? This happy moment, she's got a frown on her face.
Yes.
Or she's got she's not quite sure if this is going to work out. So that's a little weird to me.
Yeah.
I can see why they wouldn't want to do that. I think it makes sense that Michael Caine knows that Cobb is trying to get back to the kids and is invested in this big ordeal and wants to be there to take him to see the grandkids when it all works out. So I don't really think it, again, like you said, I think it is very plausible in the real world for him to be there.
Yeah.
And some people might say, well, we didn't see a scene where he says he's going to fly to L.A. And I'm like, well, that's the kind of scene you'd cut out because it would ruin the moment. Where are you going to show that?
Is that a good scene to put in the movie? Does that really help?
Yeah. Hey, Cobb, I'll meet you in L.A. Like, when are we going to see that scene? How is it going to affect the pacing, right?
Yeah. Like if they wrote that scene, that's a good one to cut.
Yeah, totally. And he, as an aside, Nolan is just I mean, almost every scene is nice and tight. I love the scene with Ariadne and her test. We see her in 3 scenes before she's on the thing, right? Cobb comes to Michael Caine and says, hey, I need somebody who's a good architect. The next scene, we meet Ariadne, and Michael Caine said, hey, this guy has a job for you. And she goes, oh, okay. The third scene is he's giving her the maze test. And he basically says, I need you to draw in 1 minute a maze that takes 2 minutes to finish, or I think or the other way around, one of those ways. And I think that's what it is. And you have 1 minute to draw a maze that takes 2 minutes to finish.
I think it's the other way around, actually.
Oh, is it the other way around?
Yeah, 2 minutes to draw a maze that takes 1 minute.
Oh, okay. And so she draws something, it's not right. That was the first one. Next time she draws something, it's not right.
Yeah.
On the third try, guess what? She gets it right.
Yeah.
And then that's it. Like that's what the scene is. Audition pass. Yeah, nice and tight and short. You get the point, and it's over. So I really enjoy that about the movie. How the scenes are very specific in what they're trying to tell you for the most part. And they get it done, and they move on.
Right, and I guess I took from it that it kind of tells you what sorts of skills are useful in building the dream worlds.
Yeah.
So I took that as a clue of like the, you know, when you design some dream world, it's that you want to serve a particular function. It's kind of like, you know, drawing a maze that'll take a particular amount of time to solve.
Yeah, exactly. And I think more to the point is the idea of the projections. You know, they're basically, it's like if they're going to do a heist, they're going to do an extraction. And they know that they need 45 minutes of dream time. Well, they need basically a world created that reflects that. You know, if they're going to do some extraction or something, and it's going to take 2 weeks, you know, then some architect is going to need to design a world where the projections, if they ever get loose, you know, aren't necessarily going to just, you know, or are going to be lost in that maze for X amount of time before they can find the dreamers.
Right.
But in terms of the ending, my view on the ending is, again, I really enjoyed the ending. It's, you know, when I was watching it, he spun the top and he left, and you know the top is still spinning, and I immediately thought to myself, if he ends this movie with the top not, you know, we don't see the top topple or keep spinning, this is a great movie. You know, I'm like, this is going to be a great movie if he ends it like that. And then he ended it like that. I'm like, well, thank you very much. And that's one of the reasons I recommended you should watch it, because I know you're super big on good endings, and
yes.
that's just a, you know, it's a great ending. And
I agree. I was worried too, because the stuff they showed before that, I was like, this is too cheesy for me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not happy with this. Like, it's over sentimental. Like, I was like, I can't take this. I mean, okay, it's the end. He's happy, yay. But that little bit, you know, that was really good, I have to admit.
Yeah.
And it leaves you with something.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and that's the big thing. So, my view, is he in a dream or not? I think you're absolutely right that it technically doesn't matter, and that's one of the things that it showed me in terms of writing is it doesn't matter if the character gets what the audience wants the character to get. It matters if the character gets what the character gets. And of course, the caveat there is the audience should be invested in the character, or else, you know, there's nothing in it for the audience, right?
Right.
Because if the character gets what it wants and the audience doesn't get what they want and they don't like the character, then you just kind of ruin, you know, there's no real point there.
Yeah.
Fail. So, but, you know, you got to be invested in the story and the characters, and then you can have whatever ending you want. It doesn't have to be what the audience wants or expects.
Right.
So
I think sometimes they appreciate not necessarily getting what they want or expect.
Oh, totally. Yeah, I think that's true. So my philosophy on the ending in terms of if he's dreaming or not, I think I'm going to side that he's not dreaming, partially because of, you know, little bitty things, but I think it's still up, you know, obviously there's no real way to tell. But if I had to, you know, gun to my head, if I had to say if he's dreaming or not, you know, if he's dreaming or not, I feel like he's in the real world. You know, part of me thinks that the top would have never toppled started to topple if they were in a dream. You know, I don't think we ever saw the top, you know, almost topple.
Wobble slightly, yeah.
Yeah, it never really did that. But I will say it is the ending of the movie. Mm-hmm. It's supposed to be ambiguous, so they're going to add that anyway.
Right.
So that's part of it.
It's subtle. I was just going to say, like, the gun to my head test. I agree. I would say it's the real world as well.
Yeah.
If that's what I have to. But since I think it doesn't matter, I don't feel like too strongly about it. But I'm definitely pretty much in favor that it's the real world.
One of the things, another thing I like about the movie, I think I said this off podcast, or I think, is that unlike a lot of movies that have ambiguous endings, at least the ones I can think about maybe, I feel like this movie gives you the tools you need to decipher the ending if you choose to do so. And by that I mean, obviously the top is part of that, trying to decipher what's going on with the top. But there's sort of like there's a previous scene. So the other part of the ending, the other scene that's connected to understanding the ending sort of explicitly is when Cobb goes to find Sato, I don't know, in Purgatory, and they're in the grand ballroom, grand dining hall, whatever it's called. I call it grand because it looks fancy. And
okay.
If anybody's wondering why I keep saying that, it's just it looks fancy. I don't know what else to call it. It's not a breakfast nook, you know. So.
Right.
Yeah.
You probably don't have one of these in your kitchen area.
No, you really don't. You really don't. And so when they're in the scene, you know, the first scene, and then of course you come back to it, Leo has two objects. The only two things he has on him, the movie explicitly says, is the gun and the top.
Mm-hmm.
The top is the means by which you decipher if you're dreaming, and the gun is your way out if you are in fact dreaming.
Right.
Okay, so they set those two things up. That's the two things that he brought with him to Limbo. Okay. Now we saw in another early scene after the beginning extraction with Saito, after that early part of the movie, when Leo goes back to his hotel, you don't know what he's doing when you first see the movie, right? He spins the top and puts a gun to his head. I remember thinking, why is he going to kill himself?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know why. You don't know why he's doing that.
Yes.
But of course, this is the dream test, right?
Right.
If that top keeps spinning, he's going to shoot himself,
right?
Because he realizes he's still in the dream. So that's the tool that I think you're supposed to apply to the later part of the movie when they show this setup again. When basically Saito and Leo are at the dining table. The top is still spinning. It seemingly has been spinning that entire conversation that they've had, however long that's been. But
mm-hmm.
you know they're dreaming, so of course it's going to keep spinning, right?
Right.
And then the other bit of genius is you see Saito grab the gun, but you don't see what he does with it, because I think if you would have saw him shoot himself or shoot Leo, you would have known one of them or both of them woke up, and that would change your opinion about the ending. So
yeah.
That's the thing I really like about the movie. It's not just the last shot that makes the movie good. It's this previous scene that sets up another level of ambiguity about not, you know, the last scene is about is he still dreaming, and then this scene is really about did they get out of the dream, which is sort of two different questions, but they of course are related.
Yeah.
So that's the other thing I really like. So you don't see him grab the gun, but you don't see him use the gun, but you see him grab it. So the other thing my long-winded point is, I think it's reasonable to assume they used the gun, since we know that that's what Leo would have done because he did it before, and we know that they know that they're dreaming. So I feel like it's reasonable to assume that they did use the gun and woke up.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, at the end, that he should not be dreaming.
Oh, okay. I see. That was what you were getting at.
Yeah, I know. It was a lot.
It's like I have no idea where we're going, but I'm on board. Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It does. I didn't make that connection, but it makes sense.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's the kind of thing where, like I said, if you didn't see him grab the gun at all, it's really like the ending again, topple versus wobble, versus keep going. It's like if you didn't see him grab the gun, you could basically argue, well, we don't know what he did. He didn't have it, he didn't go for it. We don't know what he did.
Yeah.
But he did go for it, so he did seem like something was going to happen with it. So it's a little bit in that direction of going to use it.
Right.
But again, it's another bit of genius writing and I guess editing that you don't see what they did with it, because that would heavily affect, or more heavily affect, I think, the last scene.
Right.
Because you would have explicitly known that they woke up from the limbo world.
Yes. Which they don't want to totally give away.
Yeah, they don't want to totally give it away.
Yeah.
So in general, I feel like gun to my head, top on the table, right?
Yep.
Gun to my head. I feel like he is in the real world at the end. But it's you can argue both ways. I think pretty successfully if you want, but I feel like that's the case. And largely because I want it to be the case, because I want him to succeed. But I will say this. The kids look like they're wearing the same clothes. that they're wearing when he has the memories.
Yes, the famous clothes issue. Yeah.
And all I can say is I haven't seen the clothes side by side. I did pay attention to the color and the print of the clothes. They do look the same. I would have to see them side by side to see if they are exactly the same. But other than that, I don't know any other big thing in the movie that really sort of suggests that they're still that he's still dreaming.
Yeah. 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 But, I mean, I guess they could have been wearing exactly the same clothes as they did the day he left.
That's it's possible. I don't know if it's probable, but it's possible. And I will say that in terms of the filmmaking aspect of it, again, if he would have gone the other way and put them in completely different clothes, and that gives you another answer, right?
Yeah.
Then you say, oh, well, look, the clothes are different.
Exactly.
In the real world.
Yeah.
So
and also,
either way.
Stylistically, it works because the whole movie they've been showing the kids from the back with those clothes.
The filmmaking makes that work, I think, because it makes it feel right that they are in those clothes. Yes,
because it's like visual storytelling. It's like the kids that he's wanted to see their faces the whole movie, he's finally getting to, and it's so clear that it makes that sort of triumph for him, like realized more fully that
because it's the same kind of dream or memory he's been reliving. Yeah, but now he gets to sort of see their faces.
He actually, we get to see the full, the completion of actually seeing their face. So it's just like in terms of like poetically, like it works. Better, I think, than having them like with distinct clothing or looking, a lot older or something. Yeah. So I feel like I feel like that was just a good choice, whatever he wanted to say. But like you said, if they made it totally clear, that would be, that would lose some of the qualities of the ending.
Totally.
So I don't put too much on the clothes. I think there's enough reasons for it to be there that aren't, it's a dream.
That aren't trying to tell you how to view the ending. Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah.
I think, and then I think if that's the best thing you have, that they're still dreaming, that he's still dreaming, then that's not a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's not enough. I mean, you definitely need, if you really want, to make that definitive, it needs to be something more than that. Yeah. Because that's not conclusive.
So you've read some stuff about the movie and what people think. I remember reading this one crazy theory about the movie. Now that I forget, because I thought it was awful.
Oh,
but
is it the allegory theory?
The allegory theory? What's that?
That the whole movie is just an allegory for making movies?
Oh, that sounds like the worst thing ever.
Oh, it's so bad.
That's stupid. Let's not even talk about that anymore.
Okay.
Because I just remember my theory.
I've heard this theory mentioned a lot. That's the only reason why I bring it up. Okay. I don't like it.
Well, I don't know. What is it?
All right, I'll just say, basically the theory goes that, as I said, the movie is just an allegory for movie making. So basically the dreams are the movies. And okay, so
what movies? Like movies in the abstract, like the concept of movies?
Yeah, more or less. Yeah. More. I mean, the dreams are a metaphor for a movie.
Okay.
Or a dream is a metaphor for a movie.
Okay.
In the thing. So Leonardo DiCaprio is the director. Okay.
Wait, why is he the director?
Because he's sort of like the guy in charge. He's sort of making, the general plan.
That he's not always the dreamer. He's just the director because of some other thing. Not because sometimes he's a dreamer.
Yes.
Okay.
No, he's not the dreamer. No.
Okay.
Right. So every element of the movie doesn't work. First of all, this theory is wrong, but okay. Anyway, so and let's see. Ellen Page's character, what is her name in the movie?
Ariadne?
Yes, Ariadne. Jesus Christ, what a mouthful that word is.
The reason it's so crazy is because it's a Greek character.
Oh, okay.
She's named after, I believe it's the Greek character who who saved somebody out of the labyrinth or out of some big maze. She
like
leads someone out. Yeah, it's a total. That's why her name is like totally anachronism movie. No one else has names like that except for her.
Yeah.
And because she's the Greek character who led some other Greek character out of the maze or labyrinth.
Okay.
Which is relevant to the story.
Okay. Every time I hear it, I'm like, oh, that name is a mouthful. I can never.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Ariadne. Yikes.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, right. So she is the screenwriter. Okay, because she creates the architecture of a movie, which is the script.
Okay.
Arthur's character is something like the assistant director or something, the gopher, I guess, like the guy who like takes care of stuff, like, you know, for the director. Okay. The Tom Hardy character is the actor. Okay, because he impersonates people. Okay. So, and let's see, who else is there? Oh, what's his name? The chemist guy. He's like the technical guy, you know, lighting or whatever, you know.
He's not craft services?
No.
Oh.
He's a craft service. Okay, and am I leaving anybody out? Oh, Saito is the producer because he has the money. Okay. And
wow.
And
wow. This is too good.
And Cillian Murphy's character is the audience.
Okay.
Because they put the dream in his mind, and they give him this. They make him have this emotion, and so the whole movie is this metaphor for movies and their effect on people.
Well, I think the whole movie is a metaphor about the educational system, and here's how. Leo is the principal. Joseph Gordon-Levitt is the assistant principal. Tom Hardy is a teacher.
Okay.
And Cillian Murphy is the student. And they're putting this knowledge in his mind so it can change him. I mean, come on. I mean, I just came up with that in 30 seconds. This is stupid. That's an awful theory.
I have heard it mentioned all over the place. People seem to love it.
Well, people love a lot of stupid stuff.
I agree. I think it's completely ridiculous.
People love the Tea Party.
I think the theory you just came up with is about as good as that.
I mean, doesn't that just prove how all you have to do is find some institution or set up and just connect the dots to who's what?
Yes.
You know?
Yes. I agree. That's what they did. I mean, you know.
I think, the problem with that theory is it's not intrinsically true. It's, okay, well, you can connect the dots and make this seem like it's something, but it doesn't mean that is what it is just because you can connect those dots.
Right.
The other theory I heard that I didn't really like was the idea that I think this could have been a lesser movie idea, you know, the idea that all of this stuff, I think the idea is the whole movie takes place in Cobb's mind, and that he's actually in a mental institution because he was sort of driven. Because he, you know,
the Dave theory.
Because he was either driven crazy or for some, you know, because of his wife really died or something, he couldn't let her go. So they devised this Inception to basically make him let go of his wife. So that in the real world, which we never see the entire movie, that's my problem with this story, with this theory is it's basically saying we never see the real world.
Yes.
In the whole movie, and I think in terms of storytelling, I think that's bad. I think you definitely need to, in any world where there's reality and a non-reality, I think you need to ground your audience in something, because otherwise, the only way you can view a movie is to step back from it and say, and add something to it to understand the movie, I think something's wrong with your theory. You know, I think it's just weird to me to be like, the only way you can understand his Inception is for you to guess that he's in a mental institution, and that, you know what I mean? Like, that should not be the point of the movie. It's for us to step back from the movie and try to encapsulate in something that we bring from ourselves. I feel like, again, the movie is expertly giving us all the clues we need to understand what's going on.
Right, so there's actually no clues in the movie whatsoever that he's in a mental institution.
Yeah,
the whole
there's no
time.
clues.
It's not like, for example, spoiler alert, Identity, where they specifically tell you certain things before the reveal that, point in that direction. And also,
then
they tell you specifically that's what's happening.
And then, of course, they go to the real world, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
They go to the real world and they show, it'd be like if Identity was nothing but the first part of the movie.
Yeah.
And then, everyone dies off or something. And then at the end of the movie, you're supposed to say, you know what? I bet those are all part of this one guy's psyche that we never saw. Right. That's just not the way to view a movie, in my opinion.
Yeah. And if the theory makes this movie a sort of different take on the idea of identity, I mean, leaving aside whether the theory is right or not, it's just bad.
It's just you can do again with the metaphor of movies theory, and with this he's in the we never see the real world theory. You can do that with any movie. Star Wars. You know what? I think that all takes place in Luke's mind.
There you go.
I think he got hit in the head and he dreamed all this, and we never see him wake up from the dream.
Hey,
and that's it. Yeah,
disprove it. Show me how you're wrong.
Yeah, prove me wrong, right? Yeah.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, that's the kind of thing you can just say, and I think people tend to do that. Like whenever there's any element of ambiguity in something, people just fill that in with whatever they want, whatever they concoct in their minds that fits there.
Exactly.
But it's not really there,
Yeah, and that's, again, like I'll say again, I feel like that's what's cool about Inception is I feel like it shows you, it gives you the tools, because, at the end of the movie, it is ambiguous, and you're looking for answers, and I think the movie has the answers. The movie is not trying to tell you to figure out the answers for yourself, in terms of sort of, well, obviously it wants you to come up with your own conclusion.
I think it wants you to think about certain things on your own, but I think in terms of the story, absolutely, it's not exactly. In terms of the story, it's not telling you, or I think eliciting you to figure out some way that the story makes sense on your own. I think the movie gives you all the clues for the story to make sense. Yeah. Right. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I feel like, you could come away with the movie and you can think about dreams, you can think about the idea, I guess it's kind of interesting to me, like the idea of influencing someone, like leading them to a particular conclusion, and they make this very literal, but, you do this in mild ways in life normally, and, how that affects someone, how that can change someone's life to sort of just point them in a particular direction, by telling them something. And I feel like, they sidestep the ethics issue because it really does look like it's good for Cillian Murphy that this happens, but like in general, the idea of going in and planting an idea in someone's mind, I mean, it's something that, isn't necessarily a good thing.
Well, and Cobb knows that from first-hand experience, right?
Yes.
that Inception is a very dangerous thing, and they that's the first point. That's the first lines of the movie, except for the scene that they show at the end. Is he says, what's the most I forgot the lines, but basically he's talking about an idea being like a virus,
right,
and implanting itself. So I mean, I think that's definitely the case. Yeah.
And so I think, like the general concepts that the movie deals with, I think it lets you think about those and decide what you think about them. But because I don't think the movie takes like a strong position on these things. I think it kind of just presents them, and the characters have their own point of view, but it doesn't feel like the movie's trying to tell you we should think this way or that way about this.
Yeah, and again, that's one of the things I really liked about the movie in terms, they are implanting this idea in Cillian's character that he needs to break up his father's company. And like you said, they sort of sidestep the ethics issue of all of this because it is a positive idea. And the movie explicitly says, hey, we need a positive idea. Because when they're having the brainstorming discussion about how to simplify the idea, he basically says that people are looking for catharsis. ultimately, and a positive idea trumps a negative idea. So they could, they could have incepted in his mind, your father never loved you, and then at the end of the movie, they would have successfully made this guy feel like his father never loved. And it's like, how can you walk away as an audience member and sort of be okay with what these characters did after they made this guy sort of feel like this? But they gave him a positive idea. And so they kind of get away with the ethics of, well, he's going to go and sort of break up this company and all this stuff, and he wouldn't have done that normally. And so, it's kind of not right to do that. But nevertheless, they gave him a new life and a new look, perspective on his father that's totally based in falsehoods.
Right.
But nevertheless, it's just as true as anything else.
Yeah. Like he's concocted an image in his subconscious of what his father's feelings about him were. Like just completely, like he's just made that up for himself, and he's gonna on some level believe that from now on, And so they've made him to a certain extent lie to himself about his relationship with his dad, but at the same time, it's sort of not convincing.
It's a happy lie.
Yeah, it's not convincing that that's bad, because it seems like his father was an ass. So
and that's the thing, we don't really know what his father said on his deathbed, because Killian says all I could make out was disappointing. I mean, that's you could have said anything in that, he could have said, I'm lying on this hospital bed and this is really disappointing. Like that. It could have been something about his own mortality that was disappointing to him, or who knows what the subject was. So they left that ambiguous in a very realistic way.
He fills that in,
and he fills it in, and and I think to some degree he might have some half remembered. Memory of what his father's last words were now. If somebody asks him what his last words were, it might be, I'm disappointed you didn't, you tried to be like me. Yeah. And that's, of course, not really what happened.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's really well done, the way they get him to feed, they put the idea in his mind bit by bit and get it to sort of snowball and feed on itself, and then it's pretty crazy. Yeah,
because I guess I feel like a lot of stories involve manipulation, and I feel like this took that, and really made it like specifically the object, the goal of the movie was to manipulate him on a deep subconscious level, and so it gives you this like visualization of, this basic idea in drama of getting a character to do what you want by, influencing them in some way. So I mean, to me, he really hit on like a fundamental thing about drama, and sort of like visualized it. And I feel like that's one of the things I liked about the movie. Like It's interesting to me to actually see, this thing that's sort of like going on in the background, like this abstract concept that's kind of going on in the background of almost all movies, made the specific literal subject of a movie itself.
Yeah. Yeah, and that to me is the brilliance of the movie. That's, it is an action movie. It's a heist movie. It's got these other sort of elements we've seen before, but the premise and how he approaches it, I think, is pretty spectacular. Something, as many movies as we've seen, sort of never seen before. Of course, it's got elements of other films. What film doesn't?
This movie made me think of a lot of other movies. I not to say it's a dick a rip-off of other movies. It's just it just had like small things in common with a lot of things.
Yeah.
Whether it's just a shot or a simple part of the story or a character or something like that. There's just a lot going on in the movie.
Yeah.
And I've seen him, Christopher Nolan, that is, like, sort of acknowledge that that he does specifically take certain things that he likes from other stuff. I mean, everybody does that.
Yeah, totally.
I would say that the fact that dreams it's such a free kind of concept. You can do so much with it, and I think there have been a lot of movies that have done a lot of things with dreams. And I have to say, in terms of movies that show dreams, I don't think the dreams in this movie are the best dreams I've seen in a movie. I think it's the way the dreams are layered together. I think the time concept is really nicely done.
Yeah, totally.
I don't really. It's like the way they stage the climax as going on in these different levels with different time scales is just, to me, that's the kind of touch that really puts a movie over the top.
To that level of detail and understanding how the story works together with the different time periods going on. And what I really liked, he mentioned in an interview that he's never used slow motion before because he's never seen it. He's never seen how it can be applicable to the story. Slow motion is just sort of a visual effect, for whatever you're doing, but it doesn't really sort of add to the story. But he found a way to use slow motion that was a product of the story.
Yeah.
And so you see that man falling for all that time, and it's great. It's totally great. You totally understand what's going on. You totally get it.
You do, and it's great that he manages to pull suspense out of a van falling off a bridge for so long. Because you see it getting closer and closer, and it's like just a little bit above the water, and it's like,
I know. A couple inches above the water, and two or three levels down, they have another hour. You know?
Yeah, it's ridiculous, and you get to, and it actually adds to the excitement, and I feel like that's, as far as like an action movie concept, that's pretty much off the charts. Like that's delivering way more than an action movie needs to.
Yeah.
And I think that's like probably the most exciting bit of the movie.
Mhm.
I really liked that. Even though the ice station level was a bit disappointing, the way they juxtaposed the three and then of course the limbo bit, was just a great idea.
Yeah.
And the execution of the other three bits were all quite good. I enjoyed the Joseph Gordon-Levitt hotel floating.
Yeah, you gotta love that.
Yeah, that was all really good, and of course the van, as we just talked about, and Limbo was definitely interesting. So and really the ice fortress had elements that were interesting. It's just there were certain parts of the action that were kind of tedious.
I almost feel like it was just too much going on there.
Yeah.
I mean, and I don't know why Tom Hardy's character was so good at killing all those projections.
Mhm.
Because I think in that they're in Killian's mind, right? Like it's his dream world, but he doesn't know it's his dream world.
Yeah.
And so I don't know why he was so good at just killing all those guys and never getting hit, except that he trained to do that or something. But that's one of the things I didn't really get. Like, wow, all these people shooting at you, and you're just bobbing and weaving, and you're too good. Like,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is weird, like, because they do kind of have the problem that it's a dream world, and they set up that if you die, you wake up. So, that kind of takes the stakes away, and so they have to do a little bit of a dance to bring the stakes back.
Well, the main stakes in that part is they raise the stakes by being sedated and saying if you get killed, you can be lost in limbo.
Yeah. Exactly.
But yeah, I remember when the movie first started and they say you kill yourself in the dream and you just wake up. It's like, well, okay. And then of course they're like, well, if you're in pain and you won't wake up and all that kind of has some issues that work dramatically. But yeah,
definitely.
The whole you shoot yourself and you wake up definitely takes the stakes off the top. But then, like I said, the main heist, being sedated puts them back in a worse situation.
Right.
And so I guess the idea is you'll if you get killed under this heavy sedation, you'll go to limbo, but But basically, in the real world, when the sedation wears off, if you're still in limbo, then you will sort of, I guess, appear like you're in a coma or something like that. That's how I viewed it.
Me too.
But I guess what happened was he got him out of limbo basically when the sedation wore off.
Yeah.
So that he just sort of woke up when everyone else woke up.
Yeah.
Because he killed himself in limbo.
Right.
And I guess the other idea is that if he had a totem with him when he went to limbo, maybe he could have realized he was dreaming or something. But, you know, he didn't go in with the totem at all. So.
Right.
Yeah, the totem thing is weird anyway. We were talking about that earlier. You know, she has her little totem. I guess the idea is it's got a particular weight, and, you know, the way she would test a dream is she would just knock it over and see if it fell the same way or something. I don't know, but
something like that. Yeah.
The top was the best one.
I mean, of course they give the main character the best one, but yeah. I mean, same thing with those. I still don't understand why the dream world can't have a lopsided chess piece. You know, but
well, I think the idea is it can have it lopsided, but
like why wouldn't it make the same chess piece?
So I guess the idea, well, what's weird is how do they bring them in with them anyway?
Well, exactly. Like I thought they were essentially projections. You know, in the dream world. And so if they're projections, I feel like they should have the same qualities they have in the real world.
So
it's just to say the same way.
This is what I'll say. Is, as far as I can tell, you know, Joseph Gordon-Levitt doesn't want Ariadne to hold his loaded die because he says, well, if you know the weight of my die, then basically I think if he wouldn't be able to tell if he's in her dream or not. Yeah. But I don't see how that gets him out of knowing he's in his dream.
Right, exactly. I don't either.
It seems like it's a way to prevent you from being in someone else's dream.
Right.
So maybe that's all those totems
I
do.
guess, but like, is the dreamer providing you with the totem? Like, if she, like, if
that's your own projection.
Yeah. So I don't understand why isn't your projection accurate?
Oh, I don't know. A little bit. Yeah, I'd have to see that part again. I don't know exactly what they were saying, but why isn't it? If it's
like I agree, that was supposed to be some kind of information. Like I can't show you my totem because you know then you might make one just like this, and then I won't know. You know, but. It seems like that doesn't really explain the totems. It tells you something about how they work, I guess, but but it seems like that's telling you that the totems are made by the dreamer. You know, but then it's like, well, then they have to know about them to a certain extent, you know. Like, do they just know sort of what they look like? Is that the idea? And they make some like perfect version and I guess I don't know. It's weird because it seems like that's really coming from them, not from the dreamer. But
yeah, I mean, I think it should. I'm trying to think of when we saw the totems. It's almost like. Where do we see the totems that were actually in the dream world? Like, where in the top did we see it? I know. Obviously, when the wife had it, I'm trying to think of when Leo had the top, when we knew it was the dream world. Obviously, the limbo part.
Yeah. Oh, did he have it? Okay, yeah. I don't remember.
I feel like we never saw him have the top when he was in someone else's dream.
Okay. Well, if he doesn't have a top at all, it's not very useful.
Yeah. Because we definitely saw him have the top when he wasn't dreaming.
Yes. Yeah, there's a real world version of the top. I feel like that's pretty clearly true. And I feel like it doesn't work for what it's supposed to do if they don't have it in all their dreams.
Yeah.
Whether it's theirs or not.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm trying to.
I mean, they don't necessarily show it in all those dreams.
I'd have to see that scene again when he's talking about the totem, because it did seem like the point was to tell if you're dreaming or not. But
yes,
it seems like there's also some point about knowing whether or not you're in someone else's dream. Because, like you say,
right.
You know, if you're bringing in your totem, I don't know, and yeah, I don't know why. You know, I think the top thing works best because for whatever reason it keeps spinning if you're in a dream, no matter whose dream it is.
Yeah.
But I feel like the die, like if you know how the weight of it, and you're in either your dream or someone else's dream, and it's there, why is it not the weight that you're used to?
Right.
It seems like they're saying, if you're dreaming, it's not going to be that weight.
Right.
But, you know, those kind of things, you know, they're sort of like reality checks. You know, I remember reading about lucid dreaming, and one of the reality checks you can do is to look at your hand, you know. So, you know, when you're trying to train yourself to lucid dream, you're supposed to do reality checks periodically throughout the day to train yourself to also, so that you'll sort of naturally do them when you're dreaming. And one of the checks you can do is look at your hand or something, or look at a watch. You know, when you in a dream, if you look at your hand, you look at a watch or a clock, they don't look right. You know what I mean? You can maybe tell what time it is, but they don't kind of look right. And so maybe that's just the idea of those totems, that if you had it in your hand in a dream, it just wouldn't be the right weight. You just would somehow, since you're focusing on telling what the weight is, you know what I mean? Like if you just had it in your hand and you weren't trying to decipher it was a dream, you wouldn't notice anything about it. Just like, you know, you're going along with the dream anyway. But if you're trying to discern if you're dreaming, you're paying attention to the weight of that, and it's just not going to be the same weight. I don't know why, though. I don't know why. It's just not going to be the same weight.
Yes. I mean, I didn't either, you know, that was one of my questions, but, I mean, their function is clear. It's clear what it means when he spins the top, you know, so, like, on a just basic level, it works for the movie, and it's also just a good image, you know, so, like, I didn't really get hung up on it until after the movie.
Yeah.
Where I was like, okay, how does that actually work, you know? But when you're just watching it, I feel like it's you get what it's supposed to do, and you just kind of buy into it.
Yeah. All right. Well, anything else for Inception?
Let's see. Is there something else I wanted to say about it? I feel like there must be. Let me think.
Must there be? It's been 3 hours.
Oh, really? Okay.
This is the second level of the dream world where time is going on longer than in the real world.
Okay, I thought it felt like it just kind of breezed by, so I felt like we hadn't covered enough. But
are you sure you're not dreaming?
I am not.
Where's your top?
I don't have a top.
Oh. Then you'll never know.
I'm never gonna know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be pretty crazy, though, if, like, you know, in our real world, in our real reality, if when we die we wake up somewhere else.
Yes.
It's not until then that we realize we've been dreaming this whole time.
Right. I think that's one of the ideas that the movie leaves you with.
Oh, totally.
You know, which is interesting because it's true. Like, you don't really know, and you have Mal. I want to call her Mal. You have Mal.
General Mao.
You have Mal, you know, basically killing herself, thinking she's going to wake up, and you can't really prove her wrong.
Yeah.
You know. So it's I mean, our grasp on what's real is really quite relative in the end, and you know, you can either live with it or go crazy.
Or go crazy trying to live with it.
Or both, sure. That works. But yeah, I would say, if you have reasonable expectations for what you're getting into, which is not to sell it, it's quite good, but, just don't expect the greatest sci-fi movie you've ever seen. It's not really that, but for a summer blockbuster, for an action movie, for a heist movie, for a sci-fi action movie, I mean, it's quite good.
Yeah, for an original story that feels original, that's well told and well executed, and I mean, I'm big on tempering expectations with movies, and I kind of hate when movies get a lot of hype and people leave and say, "Oh, this is the best movie ever," and it's an appropriate sentiment in terms of how people might like the movie, but then that gets translated into people actually thinking they're going to go see the best movie they've ever seen.
Yeah.
And, because people exaggerate when they talk about things, you can say, I loved it, and really you just kind of liked it a lot,
right.
or something. But it gets a little unfair, I think. Somebody on Twitter was like, yeah, Inception, just saw it, it's overrated. And I'm like, okay, but did you like it or not? Maybe it's getting more press or praise than it's due. That doesn't mean it's a good or bad movie.
Right.
Right. And then they were like, oh, no, I like the movie. It's just not what people, they just said it wasn't what people claimed it was.
Right.
It's like, well, that, you can't bring in people's external expectations when you go see stuff because that's going to change how you view it. Your favorite movie can be ruined by something like that.
Right.
I would love this otherwise if someone didn't tell me it was the best thing I was ever going to see. And I watched it, and it's really good, but,
Yes. Yeah, I don't think that stuff is ever really a good thing. I'm going to agree, at least from the, outrageous praise that I've read. I do think it is overrated, but that's, that's just something that I see as just kind of a fact. It doesn't really affect how good the movie is.
Yeah, it doesn't mean the movie doesn't deserve, I guess, to be overrated or deserve a very high rating or something.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The movie deserves praise. I mean, for this time of year and the kind of movie it is, they could have given a lot less.
Yeah.
They could have done a lot less and probably had, just as much success. But I think, I think they went, above and beyond in terms of crafting a pretty intricate story for delivering, a certain amount of classic movie action sequences.
Mhm.
And so it combines high concept, really intricate plot work with, very, very standard summer blockbuster stuff. And in that way it's much more than it's in a way, even though it was overhyped for me, it was actually a lot better than I expected. I had lower expectations. I thought that I would be deeply disappointed with it, but I actually liked it. I actually thought there was a lot of good about it.
Yeah, and
I definitely recommend it. As long as you don't try to just listen to what everyone else is saying.
Yeah, I like how we have this whole section at the end telling people they should see it, but it's like if you listen this far, I hope
you're right.
The movie already.
You're right. You should not have heard this. No one should see this movie because they heard this part.
Yeah, exactly.
Fuck.
So,
I guess.
so if you're listening to this, you probably already agree with this.
Whoops. Yeah, we should have said that part at the beginning, I guess, before the spoilers. But anyway, you've already seen it, so I guess you know what you think about it. So we can't really do you much of a service at this point in the podcast. But
no.
But yeah, I'll just say, I think praise is deserved, and I think when people get a movie that's this good in this context, I think it's easy to slip into overpraising it.
Oh, totally.
Because it's just so much more than you expect, from a movie like this, and I thought so. I just I think The Dark Knight had a similar kind of thing going for it. Like, it just delivered a lot more than it needed to, and so it became like the greatest movie ever, but it's not that good, but it is a lot better than it should have been.
Yeah, totally.
So I think he's Christopher Nolan has sort of turned into the interesting blockbuster guy.
Yeah.
Which is it's sort of like he's turning into, I don't know, I don't even know what the model is for someone like him. It's a weird niche.
Someone I feel like there's maybe one or two people I could think of that might be like that, where you get these big movies that are really well done. Maybe James Cameron.
Okay.
Sort of.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's got his own thing going on, and he definitely knows how to make a movie. And it's kind of nice to see someone who's actually writing the movies directing the stuff, and it'd be really good.
Absolutely, yeah. It's actually he gets mega budgets because he's successful and he can actually get a hold of that much money to make a movie.
Mm-hmm.
But it really is I think that's the other thing I was going to say. Like, I do feel like the movie is a little bit exposition heavy. It feels like some of that goes on a bit too long, and it's a bit too overloaded with that. I mean, I know they have to explain to a certain extent, but I do think some of that felt a bit clunky, and I think that's when they go over the top in terms of exposition. It's when I start to feel like he's acknowledging that he's making a movie, for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And he wants to make sure everyone's along for the ride. But I think he could have dialed that back, and it would still be followable.
Yeah, he's definitely trying to make. I mean, that's another thing you can praise him for, is making a movie, a sci-fi movie, really sort of minorly sci-fi movie that appeals to a very wide audience. But I think that is the model of the heist movie, to be heavy on exposition.
Yeah,
because you're explaining and especially because the characters who are in the movie, as opposed to somewhere else, need to understand what's going on. When they get to the first level of the dream world and stuff isn't how they plan, they all talk about, why isn't it how we planned? Whose fault is it? Oh, I didn't do the research. You didn't do the research. Okay, well, how are we going to get out of this? Okay, you can't kill him because of... So I think the exposition is there, but it's part of the story. You know what I mean? Like, it's not... I don't think there's any empty exposition. There might be too much, but I don't think there's any empty exposition.
Yes, I agree it wasn't empty. To me, it was too much at times. Not all of it. Some of it needed to be there. But, yeah, I definitely felt over-explained a few times. It's funny because as much exposition as they have, they leave out a lot.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of details that are totally not fleshed out at all. I mean, just this technology. I mean, it's crazy. And they really...
never... I love that they never explain how it works. You have to sort of... I basically imagine, somebody asked me, well, how does the, machine know who's the dreamer and who's the architect and who's the this and who's the, and I just have to assume that, the machine has certain inputs like a computer, and they're connected by the IVs, and who's ever on number one is the dreamer, who's ever on number two is blah, 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 and like that, there is some sort of rule and technicalities to how the machine works, but it's nice that he didn't go into how the machine works, because it opens it up to more scrutiny,
right?
And more plot holes to say, well, you said it worked like this, and in the next scene it worked like that, and
right. But like that's a good example of something that I don't necessarily need to know. The movie works fine without it.
Yeah.
And of course it's not in there, so. Clearly it does, but yeah, I just it's a nice trick he pulls. So he really makes you feel like you understand everything, but he doesn't tell you everything. There's it's nicely done. I feel like I need to watch Memento again at some point.
Yeah. I decided to do a whole Nolan fest and rewatch all his films. And I started rewatching Following last night.
Oh, yeah.
And so I got to finish that. But It's the only movie of his. I could rank his movies, I guess, but the two that aren't that great for me, one he didn't write, which was Insomnia, and the other one that is not his own source material, again, is Batman Begins.
Right.
So those are my two least favorite that I will be rewatching to see what I can get out of them now. But Memento and Following and Inception are great, and Dark Knight's really, really good. And am I missing one? Oh, and The Prestige I haven't seen at all, so I'm going to have to watch that.
Okay. Yeah. I haven't seen The Prestige. I hated Insomnia, but I haven't seen it since it came out.
I did not like it at all myself, but I feel like, well, I'm missing something good, right? There's got to be something good in there.
Yeah. I mean, I remember it getting somewhat good reviews. I just didn't like watching it. It was just kind of miserable.
Well, as you know, as I say, Insomnia, it put me to sleep.
Right. Yes, the classic review.
The classic 3-word review,
Memento was definitely the first one I saw. I still haven't seen Following. I think
the best movie ever.
I think Memento is probably it's the one that to me seems like closest in a way to Inception, even though of course it's a very different kind of movie, but I feel like the two share the most in common, and that it's about this guy's memories and it, it has this kind of intricate plot because of the way it's told, and I feel like that's the closest to like a warm up for Inception.
Well, he did come up with the original idea for Inception around that time he was doing Memento.
Yeah, it makes sense. It seems like a sort of,
I think it's Inception is the evolution of Memento. I think it's a bigger take on that kind of idea.
Because you still have a guy with his wife's death and his memories of it being fractured, and trying to figure out things about that. It's more of a mystery and sort of a film noir kind of movie, and I have to admit, for me, that's more what I like to watch than Inception. So I'm just inherently kind of more into that kind of stuff. But I think Memento struck me as a bit gimmicky the second time I watched it. But I do feel the need to go back and see it again because it's been a long time.
Yeah. Memento's great.
I think no one has just surprised me. Based on what happened, based on the way I found out about him from Memento, I wouldn't have guessed that he'd end up where he is now. I personally liked Inception better than Avatar. I really liked Terminator 2 and even The Abyss and the original Terminator, and even Titanic was pretty good. But Avatar probably has better visuals, but I found the story of Inception much more compelling.
I would agree 100%.
So I think, that's, I don't know. I feel like Cameron really wanted to show off his visuals, and he does that. But, for me, I'd rather have a story than visuals, so I think, Inception has visuals, but not as many, and it has a lot of story.
Yeah.
So I think it just delivers in the areas that I'm more into,
I definitely like Inception more than Avatar. As great of an experience it was to see that in 3D and all that stuff, whatever. It was, it was a really well done movie too, but Inception to me is so much better. Again, more in, like I said before, sort of, I think the big difference between our ratings of the film is the subject matter and stuff like that, and personal things like, what I like about the writing and the filmmaking aspects of it. But, I think Inception is definitely better than Avatar.
Right. I guess I'll say, like, I like what is it that I like? I like the plotting. I like the story, and I like the idea behind the story. and I like some of the character stuff. I don't love the characters, and I didn't love the dialogue. You know, that's the part of the writing that I didn't find amazing. You know, so I think maybe that's the only place where I think we both agree it's a good movie, but yeah, we have different tastes to a certain extent, and you know, my tastes are just a little bit removed from
bad
this.
Taste.
What?
Good taste, bad taste.
Oh.
Ouch.
Which one's which?
You'll never know. Well, thanks for listening to the not Lost Lowdown, Mr. Podcast.
Where are we?
Forgot what we were doing here. What's Jack up to? What about that Locke character?
I mean, I think it's weird. This movie did have it did remind me of Lost in certain ways.
Mhm.
There were certain elements where I was like, there's something Lost-esque about that. You know, and it includes a flight from Sydney to LA.
Yeah, they totally did that. Oh wait, they did. Oh, was it Sydney to LA?
I think so.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I was thinking they were in Tokyo. That was another part of the.
Well, they were in
Tokyo,
but
I think it was Sydney to LA.
Yeah.
I remember hearing that in the movie, going Lost.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. I think, you know, dreams, like manifestations of dead people that you lost. And, you know, the guy who impersonates other people, and even, like, making constructs, like, to deal with your problems. Like, there's a number of things that make some kind of glancing, you know, similarity with Lost.
Well, I know Damon loved it.
He did. And I think, you know, it has that Lost quality that, you know, there's a lot to talk about.
Yeah. Is there? 3 hours and 15 minutes into the podcast.
I think so. I'm going to say yes.
Well, you're crazy then. You're crazy. Cool.
So,
well,
yeah.
I think
that's a 2 thumbs up.
2 thumbs up. 1 thumb from each of us.
I recommend it. Honestly, like, I haven't seen a lot of movies this year. I don't know what's good lately, but it's the best movie I've seen in the theaters. Probably since, oh man, what was the last good movie? Inglourious Bastards or something. I think that was last summer.
Okay.
That's the only movie I can think of that I've seen recently that I think maybe I liked a little better. But it's I can't say I've seen any in a while. And really, unfortunately, that's just a commentary on I haven't seen a lot of good movies in a while.
Yeah. I would say this is the best movie I've seen this year, and I've seen quite a bit. The only other movie that I think has gotten unanimous or mostly unanimous high praise is Toy Story 3, which I have not seen. I can't imagine.
Sorry, go ahead.
And then the last good movie I think that competes with Inception to me, Inglourious Basterds is on that list. Synecdoche, New York is probably the last best movie I've seen.
Oh, Synecdoche, yes. Oh, that's a handful of a movie.
Yep.
And Coen Brothers, A Serious Man.
No, I still haven't seen that.
I think that came out in December. You should see it. It's very good.
It's the best movie you've ever seen?
Not the best movie I've ever seen.
I'm going in thinking it's the best movie ever. I'm going to raise my expectations really high.
Please don't.
Best movie ever. You just said it.
No. I'll even say this. It's for me not as good as No Country either.
Okay.
But it is very good, and I would say that I probably like it a tad better than Inception. I would probably give it like an 8.
Okay.
But not a lot. I mean, it's good in very different ways.
Yeah.
From this, you know, it's not an intricate movie at all. But it is very good. I do recommend it. Maybe that's the last good movie I saw in the theaters. That was like December.
The Serious Man?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Because that was after Inglourious Basterds. I forgot about that one.
All right. Well, thanks for listening, guys and girls. I always feel the need to do that.
Yeah. Well, when I say "What's up, guys," I'm using "guys" in the unisex sense. Yeah,
it's a very unisex word, but I sometimes say it and feel the need. I'm specifically not saying girls or women or ladies or dames. If there's any dames listening, I know Judi Dench is a big fan of ours. So.
Oh yes, she is.
Yeah.
She's right after Vicky H.
Right after Vicky H. Judi Dench. So. Cool. Well, thanks for listening to our Inception podcast. Hopefully, it was interesting and we incepted something into your mind. Can I say that? Is that too corny?
No, why not? We are Inceptors.
We are Inceptors. Yeah, let's make it worse. So, thanks, and yeah, we'll see you next time.
Oh, wow, I thought you were going to leave it ambiguous.
Like the movie.
Exactly. I thought it was going to be thanks, and then...
And may the top keep spinning.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, see you guys later.